Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto changed after returning 3-year training mission with Jiraiya part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The door opened and Shizen stuck her head in the office. Tsunade-sama, you have visitors. Tsunade sighed and lifted her head up over the pile of paperwork on her desk, a look of annoyance on her face at being disturbed just as she got a good RHYTHYM going in the paperwork. Shizen, I told you I didn't want to be bothered unless it was an emergency, and visitors are not an emergency. I don't care who it is, tell them to come back later. Shizen smirked and nodded. Hi, Tsunade-sama. I'll tell Jiraiya-sama and Naruto-kun to come back later. Shizen giggled as Tsunade's chair shot back into the wall and shattered. Naruto! Tsunade screamed in joy, the happiness radiating from her could be felt. Shizen stepped back and opened the door so Naruto could walk in, followed by Jiraiya. Shizen had a huge smile on her face as she watched the scene. Her sensei, the 5th Hokage Tsunade, hadn't smiled in well over a year. She knew how Tsunade felt about Naruto. He held a very special place in Tsunade's heart, though she knew Tsunade would never admit her true feelings for him to anyone, except for her, and even then she'd been sworn to secrecy by Tsunade, under severe personal penalty if she even hinted at what she knew to anyone. Tsunade had jumped her desk and knocked the 3 piles of papers on the floor, before she rushed across her office at Naruto like a tsunami. Hi Bachan, I am MPH. Naruto waved his arms frantically as Tsunade had grabbed him and yanked him, face first, into her deep cleavage for a very painful hug. A few tears actually ran down her cheeks. Jiraiya stood there in slack-jawed shock at her reaction. He'd give anything to trade places with Naruto at this moment. Shizen coughed. Tsunade-sama, Shizen said urgently, to save Naruto from being smothered to death by her friend's huge. Naruto, Shizen said as she pointed to the patch of spiky blonde hair, the only visible sign of his head. Tsunade gasped and released the now red-faced Naruto to take a few deep breaths of air and regain his composure. I'm sorry, Naruto. Tsunade said as she forced her emotions down to more acceptable levels. I lost my head for a moment. I was so happy to see you again, you lil br. Tsunade's eyes suddenly widened as she got a good look at Naruto. He'd grown quite a bit and was now slightly taller than she was, but not as tall as Jiraiya. What really got her attention though was how much hard muscle he'd put on, his rugged but still boyish good looks, and the whisker marks on his cheeks that only added to his charm. For a second she forgot that she thought of him as a lil brother, not to mention the almost 40-year age difference. She can't help but think how gorgeous Naruto looked. Intense sexual thoughts and feelings crept into her mind and certain parts of her body. Luckily she stopped and suppressed them before they showed on her face. However, what she didn't notice, but Naruto and Shizen did, was the brief, and very slight, blush on her cheeks. Shizen smirked then closed the door. Bachan, Naruto scratched the back of his head and gave his heart-melting foxy grin as he blushed in embarrassment, then noticed Tsunade seemed to be frozen. Are you okay? Tsunade suddenly snapped out of her shock and put on her normal happy face. You've grown, Naruto. I guess I can't call you little anymore. She ruffled his spiky blonde hair and smiled. You'll always be a brat to me though. Naruto laughed and smiled at her with his trademark grin. Jiraiya coughed to get their attention. Tsunade, we have a lot to report. Would you like a brief summary now? Tsunade sighed sadly as her jaw reared its ugly head. She scooped up her papers from the floor and put them back on her desk, then sat on the edge as her chair was now on the floor in small pieces. Okay, give me a quick report. I'll read the details in the full report later. Naruto and Jiraiya nodded. Jiraiya started. The training went better than planned. About a year into it, everything he'd learned seemed to fall into place. From then on he mastered every jutsu I taught him in a few weeks, and seemed to get a little faster and stronger every day. Tsunade nodded and smiled at Naruto, impressed. Jiraiya continued. He's just like his dad. Naruto has a real talent for ninjutsu and seals. Tsunade held up her hand to stop him, stood straight up, a serious look now on her face. She crossed her arms over her chest and gave Jiraiya a glare that made him nervous. So you told him everything? Jiraiya nodded nervously, hoping she wouldn't punch him through the wall. Naruto Tsunade turned to look at him with a worried and sad expression. I'm so very sorry I couldn't tell you. She looked down at the floor, her shoulders slumped. Can you forgive us for keeping this from you? We promised Minato we wouldn't tell anyone, not even the council. Naruto looked at Tsunade. She almost looked her age even with her special henge. Naruto gently lifted Tsunade's chin and looked into her light brown eyes. Of course I forgive you, Tsunade-sama. He heard her heartbeat increase. He never called her that before. You're my family. I can't hate my family. He gave Tsunade his warmest foxy grin. Tsunade's heart just melted and she hugged him, forgetting who she was for a moment. Tsunade broke the hug, smiled at Naruto a moment before she composed herself. Thank you, Naruto. Continued Jiraiya. A grinning Jiraiya nodded. He gave a brief account of the second year, leaving out several key bits of information for the moment. He did notice that Tsunade seemed to know he was holding back important information, but wasn't saying anything about it. When Jiraiya gave Tsunade the last part of the report, she almost fell on the floor from shock, then her emotions exploded. You did what? Tsunade screamed with such power the tower seemed to shake for a moment. Naruto and Jiraiya both felt the wave of chakra that came off of her. Naruto answered. I killed Orochimaru and the Akatsuki. Shizen came in, worried. Is everything alright, Tsunade-sama? Hi, everything's fine, thank you, Shizen. Tsunade said. Shizen nodded and closed the door. But how, Naruto? Even I couldn't kill Orochimaru. Naruto scratched the back of his head as he gave a foxy grin. Well, because I'm stronger than you now, I guess. He really wasn't that tough once I'd found his weakness and knew how much chakra he had. After that he was easy to kill, and Kabuto was no challenge at all, unlike the first time I fought him. But how, Naruto, you couldn't have gotten so strong in such a short time? Tsunade suddenly had a thought that scared her. Kyuubi, Naruto grinned and nodded his head. Naruto, Jiraiya said. You better show her now, you were going to anyway. Naruto sighed and nodded. Tsunade raised an eyebrow, her curiosity piqued. Naruto raised his hands up in front of his chest. His fingers formed to make a seal any academy student would know. Wait a second, Naruto. Tsunade said as she raised her hand. You're using a henge? Naruto nodded. Tsunade turned to Jiraiya and gave him a look that made him want to cover his manhood from fear of losing it. Jiraiya immediately intercepted Tsunade's incoming questions. He could feel her immense chakra building to dangerous levels. Dangerous to him anyway. Tsunade, please calm down, this really is Naruto, it's not a trick. Jiraiya mouthed something to Tsunade that Naruto missed. To Naruto's surprise, Tsunade's legendary rage, that he also felt growing, suddenly vanished. Jiraiya wouldn't bring that up unless he was sincere. He knows what I'll do to him if he even tries to abuse that. Tsunade thought. Her eyes opened slightly wider and her jaw briefly clenched tight. Wait a moment, Naruto, if you're going to show me what I think, I don't want us to be interrupted. Shizen. The door opened a moment later and Shizen came in. Tsunade glanced at Naruto. Lock the door and join me, Shizen, I'm going to seal the room. Shizen did as told and seconds later stood to the right of her sensei and best friend, nervous. She tried to ask a question but Tsunade raised her hand signaling her to be quiet. Shizen nodded. Tsunade took a deep breath and let it out slowly as she focused her chakra. Tsunade flashed through a series of hand signs Naruto had never seen before. Jiraiya gasped in mild shock, which got their attention. Tsunade finished and held the last seal. House hidden in the shadows. There's a quiet whoosh, and suddenly all outside sounds stopped. The window and doors seemed to have vanished, leaving only wall. Jiraiya smiled. Tsunade, I haven't seen that in over 30 years. Jiraiya noticed Naruto's reaction. You've never heard of that jutsu because Tsunade created it herself a long time ago. She's the only person that can use it. It's sort of like a bloodline limit in many ways, but she won't tell me why no one else can use it. It's like a sound seal, but nothing can get in or out until she releases it. Naruto dropped the henge. Naruto nodded and made the hand sign. Kai, Tsunade and Shizen gasped. Tsunade had seen a lot of things in her life, some truly astonishing, but nothing could have prepared her for the changes in Naruto's appearance. She'd figured correctly that it had to do with Kyuubi, and had read the reports of the few times he'd tapped into its chakra and taken on a more feral look, but this was a true transformation. He basically looked like he did with the henge. Apparently all it did was hide his new features. His eyes were still the same deep blue color, but now had vertical slit pupils and 3 small red slashes radiating out from the center on both sides, similar to the Sharingan. It was eerie but damn sexy, she had to admit. Naruto saw her almost staring at his face, grinned and revealed large upper and lower fangs. The 3 whisker marks on his cheeks were a little more feral than Tsunade remembered them being, but they were still very attractive. Besides his eyes, the most noticeable change to his head was his ears. They were on top of his head now and were long and pointed like fox ears, but were covered in blonde fur. Just as noticeable were his hands. His fingers now ended in claw-like nails. What really got her attention, though, was behind him were 9 blonde foxtails with white tips. Only her decades of experience allowed Tsunade to compose herself so soon. The seal is the seal intact? What exactly happened to you, Naruto? Jiraiya answered. I was training him to better absorb and control Kyuubi's chakra, and according to what Naruto told me, during the time he spent in his mindscape talking to Kyuubi between training sessions, he sees Tsunade's jaw and fists clench. All the chakra he was absorbing from Kyuubi started to damage his body, as demon chakra isn't meant to be used by humans because it's far too powerful for us to handle. So either out of self-preservation or respect for him, it fused with Naruto. He was wrapped in red chakra for 24 hours, and when he emerged he was half demon. With both a scowl and concern on her face, Tsunade stepped up to Naruto, flashed through a few hand signs at lightning speed. Her hands glowed with chakra as she activates a medical scanning jutsu. After she ran her hands around Naruto from head to toe, she released the jutsu and a sigh of relief. Whatever Kyuubi did worked. There's nothing wrong with you other than the physical changes, but tomorrow morning I want you both at the Hokage mansion at 9 for a meeting. Until I decide what to do, this is now an S-rank secret. You will tell nobody about this without my permission, am I clear? Tsunade said with her full authority. Naruto and Jiraiya flinched, then nodded. Tsunade pinched the bridge of her nose as a headache came on, and sighed. I'm getting too old for this shit. Tsunade said to herself a little louder than she intended. Shizen, Jiraiya and Naruto heard her and laughed, despite the fact, or maybe because, she almost never swore. Tsunade looked up at them and glared angrily, which froze them in place until she smirked, shook her head in defeat and let out a little laugh. She gave everyone a minute to calm down, then put on her best Hokage face that obliterated the light mood in the room. I want to hear about Orochimaru and the Akatsuki, and don't leave out a single detail, got it? They nodded and told her everything from the point when they found where Orochimaru was, how he'd prepared everything to move into his new body. Tsunade couldn't restrain herself when Naruto told her how he'd taken the sword grass cutter from Orochimaru and decapitated him with it so fast he was dead before he could even react. Tsunade almost fell to the floor, she laughed so hard. Shizen smiled ear to ear. She hadn't heard Tsunade laugh this hard since she was a kid and had just joined Tsunade. The sight made her heart soar. Naruto waited almost 10 minutes for Tsunade to compose herself enough to listen clearly. He told her that he then used a fire-based Kitsune Jutsu, one of many he'd gained from the fusion with Kyuubi, and reduced Orochimaru's remains to ash. This was a special jutsu. It did more than just destroy the body, it sent the soul to hell. Orochimaru could never be brought back to life. Kabuto attempted to avenge his master, and was incinerated as easily. When Naruto mentioned the vessel Orochimaru was going to transfer into, Shizen and Tsunade's faces suddenly changed. Naruto saw this and grinned. So how's Sasuke team doing? I haven't seen him since I dropped him off at the hospital. So it was you, I had a feeling you were behind that. Tsunade sighed sadly. Physically he's fine, except for that curse mark. I can't break it. I can break it, Bachan. Would you like me to? Naruto asked casually. Tsunade's eyes jumped open. You can break his curse mark? Why didn't you do it before you brought him back? Naruto gave his classic big grin while scratching the back of his head. I kinda forgot to. Tsunade and Shizen's sweat dropped. After they recovered, Tsunade rolled her eyes at Naruto and bopped him on top of his head. Oh. Naruto rubbed his head. Bachan, what did you hit me for? You may be half demon and stronger than me and Jiraiya put together. She glared at Jiraiya, stopping his super perverted thoughts before they could get started. You're still an S-rank knucklehead sometimes, but that's why we love you, brat. She ruffled his hair and stroked his fox ears in the process. Naruto grinned and gave her a hug. I love you too, Bachan. Okay, enough mushy stuff, what happened next? As she knew already, Naruto knew about the Akatsuki. It's why he left with Jiraiya in the first place. Naruto told her how they spent months tracking them before they finally found their headquarters. Tsunade heard the sad inflections in his voice as he told her how it had come down to him and Itachi, how he saved Sasuke and repeatedly tried to convince the elder Uchiha to give up and return to Konoha with him, that he'd get her to let Itachi and Sasuke rebuild the Uchiha clan, even after Itachi knew he couldn't beat Naruto. The sadness almost overwhelmed his face as Naruto told her how he was forced to kill Itachi. Tsunade knew Naruto had honestly tried to save Itachi despite what he'd done and how he felt about the older Uchiha. Naruto then told Tsunade about Pain, and how powerful he was. When he told Tsunade how casually Pain had mentioned that once he killed Naruto he was going to destroy Konoha after he'd raped Tsunade then ripped her in half. Naruto had a great deal of trouble forcing himself to repeat Pain's threat. Tsunade visibly cringed from fear. Shizen fainted dead away, unable to handle the image that flashed through her mind. Tsunade only took a few minutes to regain her composure, but it took them over 20 minutes just to get Shizen awake and keep her that way, and another 6 to calm her down. All three looked at Shizen in surprise when the usually reserved brunette told them after this meeting she was going to the Hokage mansion, where she and Tsunade lived, and get falling down drunk on sake. Help me forget about all of this and make me smile again. Shizen said seriously. Tsunade instantly stood in front of Jiraiya, the room so thick with killing intent you could almost see it. She told him that if he so much as smirked in Shizen's general direction she could guarantee him a death so horrible that even the Shinigami himself would bow to her in humble respect. Naruto had to sit down on the bench by the wall, actually scared of Tsunade, despite the fact he knew he was more powerful than her. He'd never felt killer intent so powerful in his life. Jiraiya was suddenly drenched in sweat. He bowed as best he could with her inches from him. Hi Tsunade-sama, you have my most solemn vow. This caught even Tsunade off guard. She knew him better than anyone and he told her countless times, as far back as she could remember, that he'd never referred to her as Sama, but he'd just done it. Tsunade had to step back and calm down. The tension in the room dropped dramatically. Jiraiya sat on the bench next to Naruto, and suddenly found the floor very interesting. When she felt a hand on her shoulder Tsunade turned to see Shizen. It's okay Tsunade-chan, really. I know you want to protect me, but it's okay. Shizen said. Tsunade knew what it meant when Shizen called her Chan. You sure, Shizen? I don't want you making offers like that around him, you know what a pervert he is. I don't want your fi. Shizen squeezed Tsunade's shoulder, she got the message. I just don't want you hurt Shizen. Still face to face with Shizen, a cruel smirk suddenly curled the corners of her mouth, which Shizen saw. Tsunade winked at her and motioned with her eyes. Shizen knew what Tsunade was about to do, and nodded slightly, playing along. If you want to spend some time with Naruto-kun, however, Tsunade turned and smiled knowingly at him. I won't object. I know he'd be good to you. Shizen looked at Naruto with a very convincing, and somewhat sincere, she admitted to herself, smile of lust as she sized him up like a piece of meat. Naruto suddenly felt very warm, his face turned bright red as he slumped against the wall. He'd fainted from embarrassment. Jiraiya hit the floor face first moments later, unable to cope with what he just heard. The two men unconscious from sheer embarrassment. Both women laughed and hugged each other before they moved to wake them up. Shizen took Naruto. Just as they were next to them though, Shizen stopped. Tsunade. Tsunade froze when she heard the inflection in her friend's voice. Tsunade turned her head and looked at Shizen. I know we were just teasing them, but made Tsunade slightly nervous. Just between us, I really do like Naruto. I do to Shizen, you know that. The look she saw in Shizen's eyes hit her like a fist and made her eyes big as saucers. Oh Shizen, you mean you'd really like to? Shizen blushed. Hi Tsunade-chan. Shizen interrupted. Naruto-kun is. Tsunade held up her hand to stop her. I know what you're going to say, but we'll discuss this tonight at the mansion after dinner, okay? We have a lot to discuss already. This is just one more thing you should have told me though Shizen, you know we have no secrets from each other. Shizen bowed. Sorry, now wake the knuckhead up. We have to finish this meeting, and I need to tell Naruto about our other guest down at the hospital. Since he knows who his parents are, he'll have to be told everything. But there could be problems when I mention an old village law I'll have to reinstate. Shizen's eyes opened wide. You mean, hi Shizen. Then there's the council. I'll have to tell them everything now. I'm not looking forward to the next couple days. I wonder if I could drink myself into a coma? April 15th, Hokage Tower. Tsunade and Shizen finally got Naruto and Jiraiya awake and focused again. Bachan, Shizen, that was a mean prank. Naruto said as he glared at them. I didn't think you had it in you, Shizen. Naruto gave her a big foxy grin. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Shizen said, smiled and gave Naruto a small bow. They smiled. Naruto was known throughout Konoha as the Hokage of pranks, though he'd never been called that and didn't know many of his adult friends called him that in private as a sign of respect. Almost every shinobi in the village had been pranked at least once and failed to catch him with evidence. They had to respect him for being able to pull anything on an experienced shinobi like Kurenai and Anko, though in Anko's case she'd wanted to kill him at least at first. She still acted mad about it, but inside she respected him for having the guts to prank her. She was almost as feared as Tsunade because of her temper, even by the other jounin. Naruto finally told Tsunade about the battle with Pain. She was amazed to hear about the jutsu he'd used, and especially how many different animals he'd summoned. He'd gotten around the contract and one clan summon rule. Pain had come close to beating Naruto for a while. Only Naruto's incredible healing rate had saved him. Naruto openly admitted he was impressed by how strong Pain was, but Naruto told them how in the end he had to use all 9 tails to overpower Pain and kill him in a way that guaranteed he'd never come back. Naruto finally told them about the giant statue with 4 of the 9-tailed demons held inside it, and how he freed them. What made Tsunade and Shizen gasp in shock though was when he told them how the freed demons had actually given him a small bow of respect for freeing them, and would repay the favor one day. Tsunade knew from her research that despite everything, they had their own code of honor and generally didn't like to owe anything to a mortal. But her research had also shown her that they also were bound by some decree older than even they were and couldn't break their word or a contract, regardless of their feelings for who it was with. Tsunade checked to be sure that was everything and was about to release her seal on the room when she suddenly froze in shock and turned to Naruto. Shizen, Jiraiya and Naruto were surprised to say the least. Wait a second, Naruto. How'd you get from Orochimaru's hideout to the hospital in Konoha and back so fast? She practically stared at him for a moment as he thought about it for a moment, then smiled at her. He started to open his mouth to answer, but never got it out as her face lit up. Naruto, you mastered the body flicker. Tsunade practically screamed in his face excitedly before almost crushing his ribs with a hug. Once free, Naruto took a deep breath. Yeah, it took me about 3 months to figure it out and another month to get it down. Even with Kyuubi's chakra, I've never seen a jutsu so hard to learn. The Rasengan was easy compared to that. Tsunade turned to Jiraiya. You didn't tell him, did you? Naruto was suddenly confused. Tell me what? Naruto, I told you that was your father's signature jutsu. It's what earned him his nickname the Yellow Flash. But what I didn't tell you is that the only reason you can do that is because he was your father. That jutsu can't be used by anyone else. Tsunade said seriously. Naruto looked at Jiraiya, still confused. Just say it, Jiraiya, Tsunade said, waited a moment then sighed. Naruto, that isn't a normal jutsu. Once you got the hang of it, you didn't need to use the hand signs anymore, did you? Naruto thought for a second then shook his head. Because Naruto, it's basically a Kekkai Genkai from your father, from the Namikaze clan. Naruto's eyes lit up. I'm from a clan? Like Hinata-chan and Sasuke team? Tsunade nodded. Needless to say, the questions flooded out, and Tsunade glared at Jiraiya for not telling him all this himself. Jiraiya saw her glare and knew he was gonna get hurt very soon. Tsunade eventually got Naruto calm enough to listen. Naruto, I'll tell you everything later, okay? Naruto pouted, but nodded in defeat. I know you hate waiting, Naruto, and I'm sorry, but there's a lot more to this than you think. Plus, there are things I'll have to collect that belong to you. For now, remember that this is all an S-rank secret, so you can't tell anyone, got it? Naruto nodded sadly. After I release the seal, you put your henge back and head home, try to get some sleep. I also want to know everything you can do now, because I have some things to do tomorrow that only you can help me with, and the curse mark on Sasuke is part of it. Tsunade said and smirked. Naruto was confused by that. The expression he saw on her face made him very nervous for some reason. Tsunade released her special jutsu, then Naruto and Jiraiya left. Naruto headed to his apartment, and Jiraiya to get a hotel room. A minute after they left, Shizen came back into the office with a new chair, broom and dustpan. She quickly had the mess cleaned up and Tsunade at her desk again. 2 minutes after she'd gotten back into her paperwork, there was a knock on the door, and Shizen came in with a look on her face that made Tsunade's eyebrows go up from curiosity. Okay Shizen, what's going on? Shizen used every ounce of willpower she had to keep herself to hold in her laughter. Naruto just came back and told me while he was training he solved the paperwork problem. Shizen giggled and almost lost her composure. He did, huh? So tell me Shizen, how'd the brat solve it? Tsunade said sarcastically. Shizen giggled again, then took several deep breaths to calm herself. Across the village, Naruto had just sat his things on the table when he heard Tsunade's laughter echo throughout the village. He smiled. Shizen told her about using shadow clones to get the paperwork done faster. I wonder why nobody else thought of it before. He laughed for a few minutes, then removed his shoes and dirty clothes. He wanted to get a shower before he went to his favorite restaurant to get his favorite meal for lunch and see Ayame-chan and her father again. April 16th, 8:58 a.m. Naruto raced along the street by the wall of the Hokage estate. I really don't want to be late, my first day back, how could I oversleep? Naruto said, saw the main gate close and skidded to a stop, which kicked up a cloud of dust. Before he can even ring the bell, an ANBU guard behind the gate opened it. Tsunade-sama is expecting you in the main hall. Do you know the way? Hi. Naruto replied with a nod, ran across the huge front yard to the front door and rung the bell. He looked at his watch and saw he had about 20 seconds left. Moments later the door opened and Shizen smiled at him. You cut it close, Naruto-kun. Naruto rubbed the back of his head and smiled at her. I overslept a little, think I had too much ramen yesterday. Ayame-chan had to drag me out to close for the night. Naruto heard Shizen laugh, then several very female squeals and a lot of laughter from familiar voices. Shizen led him into the house to the first big room, the main hall. Naruto had only been there once before he left on his training mission with Jiraiya, but it was something he'd never forgotten. The main hall was basically just a living room, but it was bigger than many houses and very well furnished with marble and other expensive materials. He was about to say hello to all his friends, teachers and sensei, but was cut off very abruptly. Naruto Kyuunnen. A girl squealed before she glomped him and knocked to the floor, which caused a lot more laughter to echo through the room. Naruto looked up to see blue hair and white eyes that radiated happiness down into his very soul. Hello Hinata-chan, I missed you too, but would you mind getting off me please, it's kinda embarrassing. Hinata blushed deeply, immediately got off her true love and pressed her index fingers together. Naruto saw that, he knew now what her blushing and gesture meant, and smiled. I missed that nervous habit of Hinata-chan's. Naruto thought as he got up, noticed that she was obviously embarrassed, and still kinda shy. She didn't look at the floor, but right at him. You've grown, Hinata-chan, you look a lot stronger now too. Hinata blushed deeper. Naruto stepped closer and whispered so only she could hear him. Thanks for the hug, Hinata-chan, and I love you too. He then gave her a kiss on her left cheek, which faced away from the crowd, with such speed that only Tsunade and a few others caught. Hinata's eyes, as big as saucers, raised her left hand, touched her cheek where he kissed her, turned a shade of red so bright it would make every rose in the history of the world wilt from to shame, and fainted dead away. Luckily Naruto caught her and carried her to a couch where Sakura, Ino, Shikamaru and Chuji sat. They moved so he could lay her on it. Nobody saw the smirks on Tsunade, Kakashi, Iruka, Kurina and Anko, who all saw the kiss, but glanced quickly at each other knowingly. What did you say to her, Naruto? Sakura asked, slightly worried and upset. Naruto scratched the back of his head with both hands and gave a huge foxy grin. I just thanked her for the hug and said I missed her. It was basically true, but Sakura didn't need to know the truth. That was between him and Hinata-chan. He went around the room, greeted all his friends. Everyone said how much he'd grown and how strong he'd gotten. Naruto didn't miss the well-hidden, to most anyway, looks of outright lust in the eyes of many of the girls there, and he'd swear he'd seen it, just for a split second, in a few of the women. Okay everyone, now that the reunion is done we have some important things to tell you. Tsunade glanced at Naruto, and the awakening Hinata. So if everyone will have a seat I'll get started. During the reunion with all his friends, Naruto had an odd meeting with Kiba and Akamaru, who was now large enough to ride on. Although friendly, he could tell Akamaru had reacted oddly to him. Does Akamaru know? Can he tell what happened? If Akamaru knows he hasn't alerted Kiba, like he knows I'm going to tell him. Naruto thopot. Okay, before I tell you why you're here, I assume you all know the story of Kyuubi's attack on the village 15 years ago? All the kids nodded. The adults glossed at Tsunade silently asking if she was going to tell them what they had known for 15 years. They saw the answer in her eyes. As we in the clan heads already know, it's not entirely true. You see, Kyuubi wasn't killed, it was far too powerful, so what the fourth Hokage did was use the only option left to him. He used a special jutsu to seal it inside a newborn baby. Tsunade said sadly. They all talked excitedly, but quietly, among themselves. That baby's mother had just died giving birth to him. With a sadness I hope none of you ever have to experience, he sealed it into his own newborn son Naruto. The room instantly became deathly quiet as Naruto saw all his friends' eyes suddenly focused on him. He tried to smile back, but was so nervous he could barely manage a small grin. Sakura was the first to speak, jumped to her feet from the couch where she was seated on Hinata's right side. Naruto is the son of the fourth Hokage. Naruto nodded weakly at her. He couldn't read her face at all. He wanted to say something to her, and all his friends, at least he hoped they still were after the meeting was over, but couldn't. Sakura, despite also just learning that Naruto had the Kyuubi sealed inside him all these years, that wasn't even registering in her mind. However, even inner Sakura was stunned into silence. Everyone in the room watched the pink-haired Kunoichi, expecting her to explode in anger at any second. But it didn't happen. In Sakura's mind, her entire history with Naruto flashed through her mind at a speed that amazed even her. How she treated him, every punch she'd ever given him. But what stuck out most was how they'd first met when he saved her from some bullies that were picking on her for her large forehead. And despite everything she'd ever done to him, he was always loyal and willing to protect her with his very life, as he had from Gaara when he was changing into that sand demon. Even more so than even her beloved Sasuke-kun had done. He'd been more interested in proving his strength against Gaara than actually saving her. Sakura suddenly felt like dying as she realized how Naruto had felt about her all those years, and all she did was abuse him. Sakura just sat quietly, leaned down, put her face in her hands, and mumbled to herself as her eyes teared up. Hinata could make out most of what she said though. I'm the dumbest, most worthless bitch in the world, all the years I wasted on that arrogant, cold-hearted. I could have had someone that really loved me and I destroyed it forever. Someday he'll be Hokage, he'll never forgive me, I don't deserve to be loved. Despite how Hinata felt about Naruto, she loved him with everything she had. Her heart went out to her friend. She knew how Sakura felt. She was all too familiar with that despair, with those feelings that now ripped Sakura's heart and soul into tiny pieces. Hinata knew that if something wasn't done soon, Sakura could withdraw so far into herself that nobody would be able to help her, not even Naruto. Sakura's head suddenly shot up when she felt arms wrap around her and softness press against her arm. She turned to see it was Hinata. Is that her? No, it can't be, Sakura thought, her face next to Sakura's head. Hinata whispered in her ear so only Sakura could hear her. It's alright, Sakura-chan, Naruto forgave you. He knows I love him, but I'd share him with you. Hinata couldn't believe she just said it, but as strange as it was, she honestly meant it. Sakura couldn't believe what she'd just heard either. She hugged Hinata back, then separate. Thank you, Hinata-chan. Sakura took a closer, but very quick, look at Hinata. She wanted to confirm what she felt during the hug. I had to be mistaken, she has a nice body, but hers aren't any bigger than mine, are they? Sakura thought. Everyone assumed that was for the hug Hinata gave her, but a few of the adults that saw Sakura's eyes, during the hug from Hinata, had a very accurate feeling what the thank you was really for. Hinata's feelings for Naruto was the worst kept secret in Konoha, especially among the shinobi in the room, except to Naruto, until very recently, as they'd been told by Tsunade that morning before the kids arrived. Before there are a lot of questions, there's more. As you all know, Naruto got back yesterday from his almost 3-year training mission with Jiraiya. As you all now know, Orochimaru was part of a group called the Akatsuki. I know you've all heard it mentioned a few times over the last 3 years. Everyone nodded, then saw a smile creep slowly onto Tsunade's face. Thanks to my favorite brat, our number one knuckhead, Orochimaru and the Akatsuki are dead. Tsunade, Shizen and Jiraiya hadn't told anyone that yet, so when she said it the whole room went silent. Then as if on silent cue, every head but the 4 that already knew, turned and stared at Naruto with disbelief and shock. Everyone suddenly turned to look at Kakashi, who was leaning against the wall. They turned when they heard the sound of a small book hit the floor. He dropped it. Enko roared and suddenly laughed so hard she had to lean on Kurenai so she didn't fall on the floor. It was no secret how Enko felt about that little book he always read, so they knew how much she loved it that he dropped his precious Itchy Paradise book. The tension was broken as everyone in the room, with the exception of Kakashi, laughed so hard their faces were red. Kakashi just snorted, picked up his book and put it away safely inside his vest. If his mask didn't hide his face, he'd have been a lot more embarrassed. Once everyone was calmed down, Tsunade continued. Kakashi, I don't want to see that book again during this meeting, got it? The reason Naruto was able to do this is Naruto, would you come up here please? Naruto nodded and jogged across the room to Tsunade where everyone could see him better. During his training mission something unexpected happened, Tsunade said. Everyone looked at him curiously, especially the other adults that hadn't been in Tsunade's office during the meeting yesterday. Tsunade and Shizen stepped back away from Naruto, near Jiraiya. Naruto, go ahead, Tsunade said. Naruto took a deep breath to calm his nerves a little. When he looked at all his friends and sensei, it didn't relax him any. He was worried about how they'd react to his new appearance. He braced himself for the worst, called up all his courage, and with a simple hand sign dispelled his henge and showed all the people he truly cared about most his new look. To say that everyone was shocked is a gross understatement. It'd be like saying Tsunade had a decent punch. Naruto looked at everyone very nervously. "I kinda fused with Kyuubi. If you guys don't wanna be my friends anymore, I understand." Naruto looked down at the floor. His 9 golden tails basically hung behind him, the sadness in his voice noticed by everyone. Naruto suddenly found himself in a crushing 4-way hug between Hinata, Sakura, which was a surprise. She hugged him so warmly, Kurenai and Anko, that really surprised everyone, well, almost everyone. In the months between when Tsunade became Hokage and Naruto left with Jiraiya on his 3-year training mission, only a few people knew Naruto had hung around Tsunade, Kurenai, Anko and a few others, during the late afternoon and early evenings when they weren't busy, and he'd gotten to know them pretty well as people, not just his friends, Sensei and the Hokage. He'd learned that although still rather scary, Anko had a similar personality to him, and she loved Dango as much as he loved ramen, but he also now knew that the female interrogator and former student of Orochimaru was a special jounin, and like Sasuke had a curse mark on her neck that was basically sealed, but still acted up occasionally, like during the Chunin exams in the Forest of Death. Kurenai, the mistress of Genjutsu as she was sometimes called, was more reserved and motherly, basically the opposite of her good friend Anko. "Help!" Naruto managed to squeak out. "They released him. Not be your friend?" "You're gorgeous, Naruto," Anko blurted out. In a very rare occurrence, everyone looked at Anko, who bit her bottom lip and blushed slightly from embarrassment, something almost all of them had never seen from her, or even thought her capable of being. "Anko," Kurenai said, elbowed her best friend in the side and gave her a "keep those kind of feelings to yourself" glare. Kurenai was really surprised. She knew Anko tended to talk, and sometimes act, without thinking first. Being brash and impulsive was just who she was. Hinata and Sakura looked at Anko, then each other, and saw the same thought in the other's eyes. Does Anko? They dismissed that thought though, and hoped they were wrong about her. They were girls. Anko was a beautiful, but sometimes very scary, woman. "Are you kidding, Naruto? I think you're cool." "Hell, I wish I had a tail and pointy ears. Women love that stuff," Kiba said. Akamaru barked. Akamaru agreed with me. Kiba rubbed his large dog's head and smiled. "Thanks, Kiba," Naruto said. "It's all troublesome if you asked me, but hating or being scared of you takes too much energy, so I'll stay your friend," a boy said lazily. Naruto smirked. "2 whole sentences, thanks Shikamaru. I think you look cool too, Naruto," a deep boy's voice said, and crunched some chips. "Thanks Chuji," Naruto said. "Maybe if you tied some ribbons on the ends," a girl said. "Ino, I'm not gonna tie ribbons on my tails," Naruto said, annoyed. Ino giggled. "Gotcha. I think you look cute with the ears and tails, so stop being stupid. Of course we're still friends." "Thanks Ino, I'm glad your transformation went well too," Naruto said and smiled. Ino looked at him a moment, confused, then noticed his eyes locked on her now ample chest. Ino blushed bright red, turned around and walked away totally embarrassed. Sakura and a few others laughed at how cleverly Naruto had gotten her back for her ribbons comment. Sakura would hold that over Ino's head for years to come, in a friendly way though. They'd become best friends again since Naruto left 3 years ago. The next few minutes went basically the same. They all were still his friends, which made him feel kinda stupid he'd even thought it. Once everyone had spoken to Naruto and assured him they were still his friends, but would just need time to adjust to his new appearance. Tsunade then walked over to the coffee table, where Naruto had sat down between a smiling Hinata and Sakura. Both had a hand behind him and giggled, each had a different tale from her side. Tsunade sat a box in front of Naruto the size of a large duffel bag. Naruto looked at it in awe. It was made of a shiny black material with gold trim, hinges and lock. On top was a swirl like he wore, but it seemed to be made of a solid orange crystal. "What's this bachan?" "It's yours, Naruto. Your parents left it for you. I got it out of the vault here in the mansion where it's been stored since he was Hokage. It's the safest place in Konoha because of all the protective seals placed on the vault by each Hokage over the years." Naruto's eyes lit up with excitement. "What's in it and how do I open it?" "I don't know what's in it, but I can tell you how to open it. Bite your thumb and smear a little blood on the center of the swirl," Tsunade said. Without any hesitation he bit his thumb until it bled a little and wiped some blood in the center of the crystal-like orange swirl on top. A moment later the orange crystal swirl glowed brightly, and there was a popping sound and small puff of smoke. When it cleared a moment later there was a simple lock on the side facing Naruto, and a gold key sitting in the center of the swirl. Naruto picked it up and slipped it into the lock and turned it. The upper half opened by itself, and revealed a shiny black metal key on a chain meant to go around his neck. He picked it up, put it on and tucked the key under his shirt with Tsunade's necklace. As great as the key was, what had everyone's attention was what else was in the box. Taking up about 2/3 of the length of it was 2 big scrolls underneath an even bigger scroll that got an odd hum from Jiraiya. On the right end were what looked like a dozen small scrolls. As Naruto found, to his and everyone else's disappointment, the 3 big scrolls were sealed. The small scrolls weren't sealed though. The ends of the scroll holders were marked with an elemental symbol. Look at these, Bachan. Naruto picked several up in each hand. Fire, water, earth, wind, lightning. That's weird. What's this one stand for? He held it up for Tsunade to see. Can I borrow that for a moment, Naruto? Tsunade said. Naruto nodded and handed it to Tsunade. Tsunade went to Jiraiya to discuss it with him privately, and a minute later he laughed, a huge smile on his face. Tsunade returned and gave it back to him. I'll tell you what it means later, Naruto, she said with a smile. Naruto was curious, but just nodded his okay. He knew he'd find out eventually. Although he hated waiting, it's a skill he had to learn during his training mission. Naruto set the scrolls on the table, scooped up the remaining 6 scrolls and looked at the ends. They just have numbers 1 to 6, wait, just 5, this one has something else on it. What's this mean, Bachan, do you know? He handed her the scroll with the strange symbol on it. Her eyes got big and she almost yelled. It can't be, I thought it was destroyed. Everyone looked at Tsunade in surprise. She opened it and looked at the apparently blank scroll, but she just smiled and rolled it back up, then set it standing on its end on the table. Everyone watched her flash through a series of hand signs to activate a medical jutsu that made her hands glow green. She touched the kanji engraved on the top end of the scroll. It glowed for a second, then there was a popping sound. Tsunade picked the scroll up, unrolled it again, smiled big and showed everyone nearby that it was full of jutsu. Are those medical jutsu, Tsunade-sensei? Sakura asked excitedly. Tsunade smiled and nodded. Naruto, can I borrow this scroll? It contains some ancient, and some very rare, very powerful medical jutsu from your mother Kushina's clan. Naruto gasped in shock. Mom was a Mednin? Tsunade smiled a little bigger. Very few people knew it, but she was better than me. The Uzumaki clan was small compared to Hyuga and Uchiha, but one of the things they were known for was their medical jutsu. Unfortunately, they never shared any of their knowledge. Much of their knowledge was lost over the generations because of battles and their elders dying of old age without passing down their skills, until Kushina left them to marry Minato. She only got a chance to teach me a few of them before we lost her, and she was the last of her clan by then. Not counting you, of course. Tsunade's face saddened for a moment when she mentioned her old friend. Naruto nodded. What about this key? You know what it's for? Naruto pulled it out from under his shirt and held it up. That key, Naruto, is to your new house. Everyone's eyes got really big. Oh, it's Naruto tensed up. For my what? He yelled in shock. April 16th, 9:34 a.m., Hokage Mansion. You know the founding clans of Konoha, right? Tsunade said. Of course, Bachan, everyone does. Naruto said. Not really, there's one that was removed from public record about 15 years ago, the Namikaze clan. It's on the edge of town near what used to be the Uchiha clan compound. Naruto thought a moment. The place with the high stone walls and huge gate, nobody goes near it. That place belongs to me? Naruto froze. He didn't even blink for almost 2 minutes. As Naruto faded back and he heard a familiar female voice. You probably fried his brains, Tsunade-sama. Another familiar female said. Shut up, Ino pig. The first girl said. Naruto-kun, are you alright? A third girl said in a gentle voice. Yeah, I'm fine, Hinata-chan, and thanks for defending me, Sakura-chan. Naruto said. Sakura blushed, followed moments later by Ino, but hers was lighter and very brief. Naruto still saw it, and smirked at Ino knowingly. Sorry, all that news at once kinda stunned me, I guess. Naruto's face filled with hope. Tsunade cut off the question she knew he's about to ask. Sorry, Naruto, but you can't go there, not yet anyway. There's a few legal matters to handle first. Meantime, hand me one of those blank scrolls. Naruto shrugged and handed Tsunade one of the 6 blank scrolls. Tsunade looked at it for a minute, then laid it on the table. She flashed through a series of hand signs at lightning speed, then held her hands just above the blank scroll for a minute, moving over it slowly, then stopped, rolled up the scroll and put it back with the others. I thought so. What is it, Bachan? Naruto said excitedly. They aren't blank, they have special seals on them, probably only unlockable by you. That's about all I can say. Your father was a master of creating new seals, even better than Jiraiya. There's nothing I can do about those. If I'm right, those elemental scrolls should be usable right away. Tsunade thought a moment. We'll do a little test, Naruto. Pick one of your friends. Naruto shrugged, thought a moment, looked around and finally stopped on a very familiar face. Hinata-chan, he said happily, which made her blush slightly. Hinata, what's your elemental affinity? Tsunade said. It's water, Tsunade-sama. Naruto, hand Hinata the water scroll, now open it and tell me what you see. Tsunade said. Hinata unrolled about a foot of it. It's blank, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade didn't even flinch. Put some chakra into it. Hinata did as told and suddenly smiled. It has water jutsu on it. Tsunade looked at Sakura. Sakura, your affinity is earth, right? Sakura nodded. Look at the scroll Hinata has and tell me the name of one of the jutsu on it. Tsunade said. Sakura shrugged but did as told. Tsunade-sama, I can't see any jutsu on it. Hinata, are you kidding with us? She's not kidding, Sakura. Tsunade said and smirked. I had a feeling he'd do something tricky. He always did love doing things like this. Sakura, Put your hand on the scroll and put some chakra into it like Hinata and tell me if you can read it. Tsunade watched Sakura do it then pout. You still can't read it, can you? Sakura shook her head. No, Tsunade-sama. You know why, Sakura? Tsunade said. Sakura suddenly closed her eyes and slapped her large forehead. She felt stupid. I don't get it, why can Hinata read it and not Sakura? Ino said. Sakura put her hand down and opened her eyes. Because I have an earth affinity, and Hinata has a water affinity. Ino suddenly scrunched up her face in realization. And that's the water scroll, Ino said flatly. A collective OH filled the room as everyone suddenly caught on. Tsunade continued. Naruto, I think your father left those for your friends to learn. He'd want them to be strong enough to help you protect the village. Hinata, would you return that please? We'll get back to them later. If I'm right, Jiraiya can help you with the 3 big scrolls later. But right now there's something important I need you to do. Girls, would you get up please? I need the couch for a minute, thank you. Anko, come here and sit on the couch next to Naruto. Anko is confused by the odd request, but obeyed. Naruto, you remember what you told me yesterday in our meeting? Tsunade made sure Naruto is looking at her and glanced subtly at Anko's neck. Naruto smiled big. Anko saw them both smile at her and started to get a little nervous, a feeling she's not used to. What are you two gonna do to me? Anko said as she got a little defensive. Anko, close your eyes, we have a gift for you, or rather Naruto does. Tsunade said. If this is some sort of prank, Anko moved a hand toward her weapon pouch. Anko, please. Tsunade said calmly. Hi, Tsunade-sama. But if this is a trick, I'll smash every bottle of sake in the house, and you'll spend the next week in a pink dress, Naruto. Naruto nodded nervously before Anko closed her eyes. Tsunade pointed to the curse mark on Anko's neck and nodded to Naruto. Naruto cracked his knuckles, something he rarely did, but Anko is one of the few people that scare him. Everyone in the room moved closer to see, very curious. Naruto flashed through a long series of hand signs at lightning speed, then his hands glowed with his purple chakra. This got a few surprised gasps, but everyone quickly realized why it's purple and not blue. Naruto crossed his left hand over his right hand and placed his hand on Anko's neck, covering the curse mark. Anko's scream filled the room and scared the hell out of almost everyone as she shook violently and continued to scream at the top of her lungs. About 30 seconds after he started, smoke starts to rise off his hands from underneath, obviously coming from Anko's neck. Naruto continued for another minute and a half. Anko screamed the entire time, the pain worse than any she's ever felt in her life. Finally the smoke stopped, the look of intensity faded from Naruto's face, and he slumped back in the couch for a moment. Anko seemed to have passed out. It's gone! Kurenai screamed as she pointed to Anko's now bare, but slightly red neck. Everyone looked in shock. Tsunade smiled proudly and put her hand on Naruto's shoulder. Are you okay, Naruto-kun? Naruto smiled. Yeah, I'm fine. It just takes a lot of concentration to do that, but I can do it 5 or 6 more times before I have to rest. Kami, that hurt. What the foo? Anko reached for her aching neck and remembered where she was. What did you do, Iomi Naruto? Anko grabbed Naruto's shirt and jerked him close. Everyone in the room felt the killing intent as it filled the room like thick smoke. I need a hand mirror now. Kurenai screamed, caught it from Ino a few seconds later. She grabbed Anko's shoulder and shook her. Anko, look at your neck, look, Anko. Anko saw the intensity in her friend's eyes, released Naruto and took the mirror. Anko's eyes suddenly got big as saucers and she froze from shock for almost a minute. I don't fucking believe it! Her head whipped back to Naruto. Naruto sat there still terrified Anko was gonna kill him. The entire room suddenly gasped loudly as Anko, the second scariest person in the entire village, smiled as she never had her entire life, hugged Naruto with such intense emotion it was almost sexual, then pulled back and smothered him with kisses whose sexual intensity could be felt like a heavy weight on their chests. This went on for a full minute before Kurenai suddenly snapped out of it and pulled her back. Anko Mitarashi, control yourself. Anko suddenly looked around the room at all the eyes, remembered where she was, what she just did and with who. Anko blushed a deep red to rival Hinata. Oh, I'm sorry, Naruto. She looked at Naruto and stopped midword. His face was bright red and he'd fainted from embarrassment. I'm so very sorry, Tsunade-sama. Hinata-chan, Sakura-chan, Kurenai-chan, I was just so. Anko just hung her head. She'd never been so embarrassed in her life. And she's not someone that's easily embarrassed by anything. Anko stood, bowed as low as she physically could, ran out of the room and down the far left hallway as tears poured down her cheeks. I'll go talk to her, Kurenai said before she followed Anko. A minute later Kurenai stood next to Anko in the bathroom, her bare left arm across Anko's shoulders. It's okay, Anko, really. I humiliated myself out there. I can never show my face again. Who could ever take me seriously after that? And what I did to Naruto? Anko cried into her tissues again. And what about Hinata? Everyone knows she loves him. After what I did, she'll hate me. I'll never get her respect back, never. I crossed a sacred line. Anko, please, it's okay. You've had that curse mark basically your entire life. What did Naruto do for you? Kurenai said. He removed it, Anko said, as she forced down her emotions. And do you know why? Kurenai brushed Anko's dark purple hair back with her fingers. Anko looked at her best friend, the tears in her eyes dried up. Because Naruto loves me, I'm part of his family, and Naruto would do anything to help his family, even if it meant his life. Come on, let's get you cleaned up and back out there. You've probably worried everyone sick. Kurenai kissed Anko's cheek. Thanks, Kurenai-chan. Anko blushed slightly. I feel better now. Would you fix me some of your special dango? Kurenai gave Anko her don't push your luck bitch glare, but when Anko pouted cutely she sighed in defeat and smiled. Okay, after Tsunade is finished I'll go to the kitchen and fix you some, but only because this is a special occasion. Anko's face lit up. You owe me, you crazy bitch, you know what a pain that recipe is. Kurenai said sternly. Anko smiled and nodded. Okay, how about I? Anko whispered the rest in Kurenai's ear, which made Kurenai's face turn very bright red. How about that, Kuri-chan? You can't hold it in forever. Anko Midarashi. Kurenai screamed. Her face blushed a deep red. Anko smiled playfully and kissed Kurenai on her cheek. Okay, Kurenai, I'll behave for now. 3 minutes later Anko re-entered the living room where everyone waited, Kurenai behind her. As soon as they came in, Kurenai locked eyes with 3 of them and nodded at Anko. Seconds later Anko stopped, slightly nervous as Naruto, Hinata and Sakura stood in front of her. Tsunade turned toward the group and gave them a look that said don't listen or else. About 2 minutes later Anko, Naruto, Hinata and Sakura hugged, then turned and walked back to the group, all friends again. The kids sat. Anko's face shifted to her most fear-inducing glare. If anyone says a word about what happened here I promise you'll spend the rest of your life screaming in terror. Everyone swallowed nervously and nodded. Now with that settled let's get back to the meeting. Sorry about the delay, Tsunade-sama. Anko said. Tsunade smirked. It's okay, Anko, nobody minds. Anko and Kurenai joined Naruto, Hinata and Sakura on the couch. You remember a few months before Naruto left for his training mission with Jiraiya when we tried to get Sasuke back? I know 4 of you have some unpleasant memories of the sound nins that protected him. Well, one of them wasn't killed as reported. It's Tayuya. Tsunade said. Shikamaru closed his eyes and shook his head as he remembered her. But she's not free, she's been in a special section of the hospital in a coma. Because of the curse mark I can't wake her up. That's where you come in, Naruto. I want you to remove it like you did for Anko. When she wakes up it's going to be very rough on her. In an enemy village, no living relatives, not even her ties to Orochimaru are there to fall back on. I want her to join us as a Konoha Kunoichi. One know many of you aren't happy with this, but I'm not asking for your opinion, I'm telling you what's going to happen. If she reacts like Anko did she'll be very grateful to have that curse mark gone, and more willing to let us take her in and join our family. Also, as you're aware Sasuke was returned to us alive, the details of which most of you don't need to know. He's awake and has been receiving counseling, but as expected, with that curse mark he's been his usual charming self. I know he wants to get better, but is being held back, Tsunade said, which is why you need me to remove his curse mark too. Naruto interrupted. As big a pain in the butt as he is to me, I miss the team, so whenever you want me to I'll be there. Maybe he'll even be nicer from now on. Naruto said. Several people laughed. Correct, Naruto, and thank you. This brings me to the final piece of business, you Naruto, or more specifically the Namikaze clan. As you're the only surviving member it's up to you to restore the clan. Tsunade said. Naruto looked at Tsunade nervously. Tsunade, how am I going to do that by myself? Everyone looked at Naruto and back to Tsunade for the answer. I've been dreading this moment since yesterday. I spoke with the council and it was decided. Naruto, the Clan Restoration Act has been reinstated. This means that since you're 6 months from turning 16 by then you have to select at least 4 women, preferably kunoichi around your age, to become wives, and by your 17th you must have at least 1 wife old enough to raise the children. Tsunade looked around the room then pinched the bridge of her nose as she tried to stop the migraine. Naruto, Hinata, Sakura and Ino fainted. The remaining females in the room, except Tsunade, all blushed. Kurenai stood over Naruto and shook him to wake him. Out of reflex he raised his arms in self-defense, but they stopped halfway up. He'd grabbed Kurenai's very large but well hidden through her vest. She froze, blushed furiously and fainted on top of Naruto. Tsunade turned to the blushed Shizen. How can one brat turn my 2 strongest kunoichi into red-faced little girls that faint if a cute boy touches them? Shizen can tell from her friend's expression and voice she didn't think it'd be this bad. I don't know, Tsunade-sama, maybe it's a side effect of his merging with Kyubi. He has had a rather strong effect on every kunoichi around him, even why. Shizen, Tsunade said with quiet yet powerful voice that stopped Shizen mid-word. Don't you dare say it. I'm going to do a full checkup on him later to see exactly what happened to him. Regardless, this is going to be a very long day. Tsunade pinched the bridge of her nose as the migraine intensified. Shizen, go help Anko wake them up, and separate Kurenai from Naruto carefully. Shizen nodded. She knew exactly what Tsunade meant, being one of the very few who saw what Naruto did to make Kurenai faint. Shizen and Anko got Naruto and Kurenai separate, Enko had to use a lot more force than she expected to pry Naruto's hands off Kurenai's vest without revealing to everyone what had happened. Enko knew that Kurenai would be emotionally devastated if it got out that a Chunin had grabbed her that way, even if it was an unconscious reflex, and made her faint in front of her fellow Jounin, the Hokage and the Chunin students, 3 of which are her team. Enko loved to tease Kurenai, at least in private, about her rep with the Jounin as an ice queen, but even Enko wouldn't go so far as to spread this around. She had no problems doing almost anything, but that was too cruel even for her, in regards to the only person in the world she'd ever called her best friend, a woman she had no secrets from, or Kurenai from her. It took almost 10 minutes, but they got everyone awake and calmed down. Shino and Akamaru had to restrain Kiba, however. He thought all of them fainting like little girls, especially the oh-so-powerful Naruto. Funny as hell. Naruto was rather jumpy for a while, especially when Hinata and Sakura looked at him. He'd swear he could hear wedding bells ringing. True to form, Hinata almost fainted again the first few times she looked at Naruto after she woke up. Luckily, Sakura or another of her friends was always close by and would step in to rescue her before she'd actually faint, but her knees would buckle. That's all I needed to say. Since my workload is light today. Tsunade said she hadn't mentioned she'd made 3 shadow clones to do her paperwork and handle any small things that came up at her office. How about we all go see Naruto's new house? Naruto looked at her in surprise. Bachan, you said I couldn't live there yet. You can't until you're signed as the legal resident. But you do own it, and as Hokage I'm officially telling you to go check it out. Tsunade said. Hi Tsunade. Naruto said. He didn't call me Sama. But he didn't call me Bachan either. The brat is finally learning. Tsunade thought. Tsunade-sama, not to contradict you, but shouldn't a few of us go? Isn't it tradition to get a new home cleaned up and ready, then have a housewarming party to show it to friends and family? Shizen said. Party? Kiba said excitedly, then got elbowed by Sakura. Down dog boy. Sakura snapped at him playfully. Most of the kids laughed or giggled briefly. Tsunade thought for a second then sighed. You're right, Shizen. You, Hinata, Sakura and Jiraiya come with me. Everyone else is dismissed for the day. You can stay here if you like. We have anything you may want. And since this is the first time many of you have been here, I'm sure most of you would love to try some of the training grounds. We have 3 to choose from. Training grounds? Tenten squealed excitedly at the thought of testing her skills in a Hokage's private training ground. Irika, Kakashi, Kure Tsunade said. If it's okay Tsunade-sama. Kurenai interrupted. I'd like to use the kitchen to fix something for Enko and I. We haven't eaten yet. Tsunade nodded. Dango. Enko cheered happily as she raised her fist. Kurenai sighed and shook her head in defeat. They headed off to the kitchen as the rest went with Irika and Kakashi to the training grounds behind the mansion. Before he left the mansion, Naruto redid his henge, and Tsunade reminded those with her that everything they just learned is an S-rank secret, meaning a severe, and very permanent, punishment for breaking it. Tsunade hadn't tried to scare them, but she wanted to remind them that they're shinobi and should never forget that. Naruto wanted to bring his new case of scrolls, but Tsunade told him he could get it later, and just had him seal it back, since only Naruto could open it. Naruto was rather anxious to see his new home, as expected, so Tsunade agreed to let them leap there across the rooftops. Once out of the Hokage compound, the 5 of them jumped to the nearest roof and within minutes are across town. Naruto could have gone much faster, but Tsunade insisted he stay with them. Near the Namikaze compound they dropped to the street and walked the 100 or so yards to the main gate, which Hinata, Sakura and Naruto were very impressed by, this being their first good look at the 12-foot metal gate up close. At about chest level is a 2-foot black disc, on which is an orange swirl that almost covered it edge to edge. Is this swirl the crest of the Namikaze clan Bachan? Naruto said. Hi, it is Naruto, and if I remember right it's how we get in. Naruto, remember how you opened that box back at my house? Hinata, Sakura, move back by me. Shizen and Jiraiya, I'm not exactly sure what'll happen. Tsunade said. Naruto stepped up to the gate, cut his left thumb on a hidden fang, then wiped the blood across his right palm. He took a deep breath and placed his right hand on the center of the swirl. The swirl glowed and smoke rose from under his palm, then there's a loud, sharp whoosh and pop. Naruto pulled his hand away as the disc turned upside, not that you could tell it had, split down the middle like it was 2 separate pieces on the gate, then after what sounded like huge mechanical locks opening, it moved inward a few inches signaling that it's now open. Naruto looked back at Tsunade and Jiraiya, who nodded. He smiled and pushed the huge gates open. Naruto, with Hinata and Sakura, froze mid-step, in awe at the sheer size and beauty of the front of the Namikaze compound. Tsunade was a little in awe herself. She hadn't been there in almost 2 decades, pushed them inside and closed the gates behind her. Place hasn't changed a bit, Jiraiya said. Namikaze's front gate. As soon as she closed the gate, Tsunade saw a disc identical to the one on the outside seal, spin and lock. You thought of everything Minato, even a seal that reactivates when the gate is closed. Tsunade thought, smiled, then turned back to Naruto, Hinata and Sakura, who stared blankly at the house and huge front grounds of the compound. It's as impressive as I remember it, Tsunade said to Jiraiya, then smirked. I always loved this place. He had the most beautiful servants in Konoha. Jiraiya sighed. Naruto looked at the two Sannin. Their comments snapped him out of his trance. You've both been here before? Naruto almost yelled. Jiraiya nodded to Tsunade, and let her take over, a long time ago. Tsunade sighed happily at the recalled memories. I hate to admit it, as the Hokage anyway, but this place is even grander than the Hokage compound I live in. The four suddenly look at her, even more surprised, if that's possible. Jiraiya smirked. I forgot, this is your first time here. Shizen, join Naruto and the others. While we're here, don't think of me as the Hokage, just as your guide, except you, Jiraiya. Tsunade said. Jiraiya frowned at Tsunade and very subtly mouthed bitch to her. Tsunade just smiled. She loved doing this to Jiraiya to put that pervert in his place. It always made her happy. Tsunade pointed out the features of the front grounds to them. There's a stone walkway from the main gate to the front door of the house. The grounds are two half-acre lots separated by the walkway. To their left were dozens of various-sized flower and rose gardens, a dozen benches and two large man-made ponds, each fed by a small waterfall, and near the house was a huge stone fountain, all connected by more flat stone walkways. Hinata sighed several times contentedly. She wanted to explore them, but was told she could do that later. They knew she loved gardening. She'd taken it up again in the last 3 years. Before that, the last time had been as a little girl with her mother in the Hyuga private gardens. They were Hinata's earliest memories, and her most precious, as they're also of her mother laughing happily as she tried to be a big girl and garden like her mother did, and got really dirty. To their right is an open field for outdoor parties, light sparring, things like that. It ended, to the far right, at a forest that covered an acre of the front corner and side of the compound. Kiba and Shino would love that, Naruto said, knowing his friends very well. Sakura and Hinata nodded, then Hinata got confused. Tsunade-sama, if no one has been here in 20 years, why aren't the gra and flowers overgrown? Hinata said. Tsunade laughed. I wish I knew. Hinata, Hokage compound. Kakashi is up in a large tree at the edge of one of the training grounds, hidden from view, quietly reading his favorite little orange book. In the field nearby, Kiba and Akamaru roughhoused with 6 of Kakashi's nin dogs Kiba had asked him to summon. Rock Lee and Niji sparred on top a series of 10-foot metal poles buried in the ground. Shikamaru and Chuji laid under a shade tree and watched the clouds, while a nearby Shino seemed to have a silent conversation with some insect residents of the tree they were under. Ino and Tenten perfected their aim with the moving targets at the far side of the 1-acre training field. Tenten's squeals of joy while she used the new, highly elusive targets could be heard by all, which told everyone that the young weapons mistress was very happy. Iruka was leaned against a tree near Shikamaru, Chuji and Shino. He watched them all enjoy themselves and smiled. Namikaze compound. Over the next 2 hours they had a fairly quick, but informative, tour of the entire house and the remaining grounds. Now back in the main hall of the house, Tsunade planned out the chores. Tsunade had Naruto create 50 shadow clones and sent them with Hinata to clean up the front grounds and gardens. Sakura and 50 Naruto clones took the left side of the house, which surprisingly was only upstairs, while Shizen and 50 Naruto clones took the right. Tsunade took Jiraiya and the original Naruto to the grounds behind the house where Naruto made 500 clones, and then they started cleaning up the various sections of the grounds. Tsunade worked everyone hard until 5 o'clock, by which time everyone was tired and hungry, especially Naruto. Happy that the bulk of the work was done, it left only the details and food for the party. Tsunade led the weary group back to the Hokage compound where everyone sat at the huge dinner table and chatted about the exciting day. It was fairly one-sided in respect to what the Namikaze compound looked like, as they couldn't tell them anything, but that was okay because everyone that stayed behind had more than enough to talk about during the meal and for an hour afterwards. After the meal, Tsunade had been informed by an ANBU that several missions had come in. Nothing big, 2 C-rank missions that'd take Team 8 and Team Guy a couple days to complete, not to mention the help Naruto had to give Tsunade at the hospital with 2 special patients, one of which was Sasuke Uchiha. So the party was set for 10 o'clock the following Saturday morning. At 9 the next morning, as instructed, Naruto met Tsunade at the hospital. So what'll happen to Sasuke after I remove the curse mark? I know what he did was wrong, but it wasn't totally his fault. That curse mark made him act that way. Tsunade put her hand on his shoulder as they walked toward his room. I know Naruto. Since he's the last of his clan, that will help him, but because of everything he's done, I don't think he'll be given the same chance to restore his clan like you, at least until he proves his loyalty to Konoha again. What if he doesn't prove his loyalty? Naruto said nervously. Tsunade stopped, as did Naruto a second later. Tsunade hung her head. He'll be executed, she said with a lot of sadness in her voice. I don't like it either, Naruto, but as Hokage I must protect the village at any cost, you know that. Naruto nodded sadly and started to walk again. He stood by the window in his classic pose and looked out at nothing, when he heard a familiar voice. You're looking a lot better than you did the last time I saw you, Sasuke team. Sasuke spun around to face the person talking. What's that baka doing here? It's good to see you too, Sasuke team, Naruto said. Sasuke snorted and ignored him. Tsunade giggled inside, but didn't show it. He's here because he can remove your curse mark. Sasuke lost his almost legendary, in Konoha anyway, composure momentarily, a you can't be serious look on his face for just a second. Sasuke crossed his arms over his chest and turned his back to both of them. Tsunade walked over to him by the window and quietly talked to him. Naruto could listen in, but decided not to. Tsunade might not want him to know what she said. After about 2 minutes, Sasuke suddenly tensed up and looked at Naruto, disbelief on his face. She told him about Itachi. Naruto thought. After a full minute of fierce glaring, he turned back to Tsunade and relaxed a little. After a few more minutes, Tsunade returned to Naruto's side. Naruto stood there for 5 very long, silent minutes before he sighed sadly and turned to leave. I'll think about it, Dobe, Sasuke said. Naruto stopped, suddenly smiled like he'd gotten free ramen, then left the room and closed the door behind him. Naruto smiled because of the very subtle inflection of respect in Sasuke's voice when he called him a Dobe. When he entered the room, he saw her on the bed unconscious. Naruto froze in his tracks. It had been over 3 years since he saw her last. The outline of her body under the thin blanket was unmistakable. That's Tayuya? Naruto yelled in shock when he saw her healthy, now 18-year-old body, her now huge pearly hidden by the thin hospital blanket. It took me 3 weeks to heal her, Naruto, but she did suffer a severe head trauma. Even though I healed the damage, she never woke up from the coma. Part of it is because of the curse mark, but I think that the main reason is that she's afraid to wake up because she thinks if she does she'll be killed. I've read her file. She's never had a real friend, Naruto. The only person that was ever even remotely kind to her was Orochimaru, and you know how he treats people. Tsunade said sadly, Naruto's fists clenched tightly. He's lucky he's already dead. Naruto mumbled, his voice filled with rage. Tsunade put her hands gently on his shoulders. Naruto, Sasuke has a choice on his future, she doesn't, so I have to make it for her until she can decide what she wants to do. Naruto, I know she tried to kill you guys, and probably would have killed Shikamaru if Temari hadn't shown up, but as a favor to me, please help her. Tsunade hugged him. Naruto lightly struggled for a minute, then totally relaxed in her arms. His heart went out to Tayuya because he understood the kind of life she's had. Okay, Tsunade, I'll help her. Tsunade's smile went ear to ear for a moment, but she pulled it back when she released the hug. Thank you, Naruto. If anyone can help her, it's you. She pulled up his headband and kissed his forehead like she did after they'd first met, and she agreed to become Hokage. Tsunade closed the door and used the sealing jutsu to soundproof the room because she knew from when he removed Ankos that the girl will very likely scream, even if she doesn't wake up right away, and she doesn't want a lot of nurses and ANBU rushing in when she does. The poor girl will be stressed enough. She doesn't need to wake up to ANBU, Tsunade thought. Naruto walked up to her bed and looked at her as she laid there helpless. She sure doesn't look like the same foul-mouthed bitch that wanted to kill us 3.5 years ago, Naruto thought. He gently turned her head so he can see the curse mark on the left side of her neck. Some anger welled up in him for how Orochimaru treated people, the chance at happiness he denied her. It made his blood boil. Naruto, calm down. We don't need every shinobi in the village feeling your chakra and thinking something is wrong, Tsunade said. Sorry. Naruto quickly calmed down and got focused. He flashed through the long series of hand signs he needed to activate this jutsu, then crossed his left over his right, placed his right hand completely over the curse mark on Tayuya's neck and pumped huge amounts of chakra into the seal to destroy it. After 30 seconds, smoke started to rise from under his hand from her neck. She tossed in her bed, slowly at first, but soon the pain showed on her face and Tsunade moved to hold Tayuya down. It's almost gone. Hers is stronger than Anko's was, Naruto said, unwavering determination on his face. At 1 minute 58 seconds, Tayuya's eyes snapped open and she let out a scream that, if it wasn't for the sound seal on the room, would have literally blown out the windows, and very likely shattered several others as well. Her whole body stiff, every muscle locked in searing agony, she holds the scream for another minute before she collapsed unconscious on the bed. The seal removed, Naruto covered his ears in an attempt to soothe them. Tsunade pulled his hands away and applied her healing chakra to his ears, hers protected by a special jutsu, and within a minute the ringing is gone and his hearing is normal. Naruto looked at Tsunade. I've never heard anyone scream like that, not even Sakura that time I accidentally touched her BR. Tsunade smirked, her eyebrows raised slightly. She knew what word he started to say. Never mind. Does she have a Kekai Genkai for sound? Naruto said curiously. Nothing in her file about it. I'd say that was from 3 years of built-up chakra and years of playing her flute for hours on end. From what I read, it seemed like the only thing that ever made her happy. It built up her lungs, Tsunade said. Like training? Should we wait here for her to wake up? Naruto said. You have a seat there, I'll check her over. Tsunade did a series of hand signs and activated a diagnostic jutsu. She placed her hands by Tayuya's head and slowly worked her way down, intensely scanning every inch of the girl from her nervous system to her chakra, though she made a mental note to have Hinata check her chakra coils. A few minutes later, Tsunade is finished and dispelled the sound seal. I'll be right back, Naruto. She left the room and closed the door behind her. I should have her teach me a couple medical jutsu, those can come in handy, Naruto thought. What the fuck happened to me? Tayuya said, only half awake. Naruto turned back toward Tayuya suddenly and smiled. You're awake. Tayuya jumped, surprised to hear an unfamiliar voice. She rubbed her eyes and struggled to focus them on the source of the male voice. It's too fucking bright in here. Turn off the fucking lights, you fucking. Naruto jumped out of his seat, shut off the lights, then crossed the room and drew the shades. Is that better, Tayuya? Thanks, guess you aren't a total. Tayuya took another minute to get her eyes focused enough to see clearly. Some detail was still a little blurry, but good enough for her to make out faces clearly. She looked around and saw orange clothes and blonde hair. Who the fuck are you and how do you know my name? Tayuya said angrily, reaches for her flute, but didn't find it, or her weapons pouch. Where's my stuff and where's my team, damn it? Tell me now or you're dead, motherfucker. Tayuya is terrified inside, but wasn't going to show it. She didn't know where she is or who the blonde kid was. She'd learned the hard way what happened to big girls that woke up in a strange place with strange men. When she didn't get an answer fast enough, she tensed up. Okay, you asked for it. She clenches her fists and pumped all the chakra she felt she had into her curse mark to change directly into her sconce stage form and got visibly scared when nothing happened. I can't feel it. What happened? What did you do to me? She rolled off the bed away from him, onto the floor, scooted back into the corner. She brought her knees up to her chest and covered her head with her arms in sheer terror. Don't hurt me, please. I'll do anything you want, just please don't hurt me. Tayuya sobbed in fear. She was absolutely terrified she was going to get hurt or probably even worse. She'd never been so scared in her life, and Naruto could feel the terror radiating from her like heat from a huge fire. Naruto moved around to the other side of the bed, about 5 feet from Tayuya, and got down on his knees. In his most caring, loving voice he tried to calm her down. Tayuya, I'm Naruto Namikaze. This is a hospital in Konoha, the village hidden in the leaves. Tayuya raised her head enough to look at him. She knew the sound of an uncaring voice, but all she heard in his voice was kindness. I'm sorry if I scared you, I didn't mean to. Your teammates are dead, Tayuya, I'm sorry. Naruto said gently. Tayuya sobbed. They weren't really close, but they were the closest thing she had to friends and a family. I don't know any other way to tell you this except directly. You've been in a coma for over 3 years. Naruto said. Tayuya looked at him intently, hoping, praying he lied to her, but she can hear the sincerity and sadness in his voice. No, it can't be true. The pain in her neck finally registered in her mind. Her left hand went to her neck where her curse mark was. It's gone, Tayuya. That's why you couldn't change. Naruto said gently. Her eyes opened wide and she looked at him like he had 2 heads. That's impossible, nobody can do that. If you let me help you up, I'll show you. Naruto moved closer and held out his hand. Please, Tayuya, you can trust me. Deep in her mind, instincts told her don't trust him. It's a trick, but something in her heart, something she's never felt before, forced its way to the surface and overpowered her usual caution about trusting strangers. Something about him made her feel safe. She couldn't explain it because it's a feeling she's never had before, but she liked it. He smiled warmly when she cautiously reached up and took his hand. It's so warm, she thought. He helped her up. She's a little shaky because she's not used to standing yet. Naruto held her steady, walked her into the bathroom and turned on the light. It hurt her eyes for a moment, but after a few minutes she adjusted, but hadn't looked at herself in the mirror yet. Are you ready? Naruto asked her warmly. She nodded, then took a deep breath and slowly looked in the mirror. She's a little shocked by her appearance, but quickly remembered she'd been in a coma for 3 years and her skin is rather pale, not the beautiful tan she used to have. My hair is a mess, she said. A small smile curled the corners of her mouth. You look fine to me, Naruto said and smiled. She turned to her right and faced him, a tiny spark of her old self igniting. Compared to the bush on your head, mine looks great. She let out a light giggle of amusement. Naruto smiled. You're right. She started to turn back toward the mirror and saw the pink spot on her neck where the curse mark used to be. Just outside the door to Tayuya's room, Tsunade had been listening to them with a smile. That's it, Naruto. Show her that big heart you have, that makes us all love you, Tsunade thought. Suddenly she heard a crash of things hitting the floor, and sounds of struggling. Without even thinking, she ripped the door right off the hinges, ran into the room but saw nothing. She darted to the bathroom door where the only light in the room is coming from, and stopped dead in her tracks at what she saw. She stared, unable to hold back her emotions as she watched Naruto. Though only 15, is without a doubt the most powerful shinobi she's ever met in her life, and he was held against a bathroom wall by an 18-year-old girl who currently has barely enough strength to stand on her own. She's stark naked, her hospital gown on the floor behind her, her huge squashed out the sides as she pressed herself tight against him as she laid a kiss on his lips filled with raw passion. Tsunade could swear she felt hiding her like chakra. Naruto saw Tsunade in the bathroom doorway with an ear-to-ear smile. The look in his eyes begged for her to rescue him. She stood there for just over a minute, before Tayuya broke the kiss, and fell backwards from exhaustion. Tsunade caught her, carried her back to the bed, laid her down and covered her with the blanket. She smirked at the huge smile on Tayuya's face. Tsunade strolled casually back into the bathroom and saw Naruto, redder than she'd ever seen him in all the time she's known him, and he was still in the same position he was in when Tayuya had kissed him, his hands in front of his chest, palms out, which told Tsunade exactly where his hands were. She stepped in and picked up the hospital gown. Is there something you want to tell me, Naruto? Tsunade said in a very playful, mischievous voice that makes Naruto squirm. I showed her the curse mark was gone when she dropped her, and they were so, and she my hands touched kissed me. Naruto's eyes rolled up in his head and he fainted. Luckily Tsunade caught him and sat him in the chair by the bed. I think you found another one, Naruto. I just hope you make your move on Hinata, or her you, before Tayuya does. That girl is definitely not shy. Tsunade said quietly to herself. What happened here, Tsunade-sama? A woman said. Tsunade turned to see a shocked nurse in the doorway, the door on the floor behind her. It's nothing, just a little accident. I'll have the door replaced within the hour. 6:38 p.m. After finishing his 10th bowl of ramen, Naruto patted his happy belly. Hospital ramen is pretty good. So how's Sasuke doing now that I removed his curse mark Bachan? Well, if he was anyone else I'd have him under ANBU guard and strapped to his bed, but for Sasuke he's doing very well. He's still mad that despite all his training, the power from the curse mark, and even mastering his Manjiki Sharingan, you're still stronger than him and you killed Orochimaru, the Akatsuki, not to mention Itachi. He still wants to fight you, Naruto. Naruto looked down at the table depressed. He doesn't want to kill you though, Tsunade said with a smirk. Naruto's head snapped up, surprise on his face. He won't admit it to anyone, except maybe to you, but I think he respects you now, at least a little. Tsunade said honestly. Naruto smiled. Should I go talk to him? I think you should wait a couple days, let him think everything over. When he's ready he'll tell us. Tsunade said. Tsunade smirked. I have a message from Tayuya. She keeps asking when she can see her Naruto-kun again. The way Tsunade said Naruto-kun in a syrupy sweet voice made Naruto shudder. Upon hearing the statement he knew was a direct quote, Naruto froze instantly. His face turned red and sweat started down his face. Tsunade of course found this hilarious, but held it in. Is something wrong, Naruto? Tsunade smirked. She loved to torture him like this, her payback for his Bachan nickname. I'm fine and I'm glad Tayuya is fine, but I have to go. I'll see you later, bye. Then he was gone in a flash of yellow light. Tsunade quickly glanced around. She hadn't expected him to actually use that here in the hospital cafeteria. But she got lucky, nobody saw him. That was close. I'll have to talk to him about that, and I'd better be careful where I tease him, and how much. I'd better make a quick check on a couple patients, drop by the tower and check on Shizen, then head back to the house. This has been a long day. I have to hand it to Naruto. That was a brilliant idea, using shadow clones to help with all the paperwork. He'll make a great Hokage someday. Tsunade thought happily. The next week went by pretty fast for Naruto. Well, not all of it. There were several occasions when time seemed to slow down to a crawl for him. The first time was that Monday. Never someone to waste time, Sasuke had insisted on talking to Naruto alone about what had happened. Naruto had begged Tsunade to let him tell Sasuke the whole truth, as he had his other friends. It was the only way to get Sasuke to trust him. Naruto had insisted to her. Tsunade finally agreed, after almost 10 minutes of groveling. She was going to let him anyway, she just wanted him to squirm a little first. It was mean, but Tsunade just couldn't resist sometimes. He was like her lil brother, and what big sister doesn't like torturing her lil brother occasionally? She did however tell Sasuke that what he was about to be told was an S-rank secret, and if he betrayed the village again, or specifically Naruto, she would personally hunt him down and kill him. Sasuke didn't scare easily, but the killing intent he felt from her when she told him the last part dwarfed anything he'd felt from anyone in his life. He got the message very clearly. When she wanted to be, she was more terrifying than all his current bad memories and nightmares combined. He saw Naruto flinch when he felt it. If Naruto was afraid of her when she was mad, and he'd killed Itachi, Orochimaru and Pain, then he had no chance at all. Sasuke had his private talk with Naruto, and most of it was shocking. Sasuke listened intently as Naruto told him about the fight with Orochimaru. He was glad the Snake Man was dead. He only went to him for power anyway, and even that had failed to get him what he wanted. The battle with Pain was just as interesting, but Naruto's battle with his brother Itachi was by far the most interesting to Sasuke. He was visibly upset Naruto had killed Itachi, not him, and he told Naruto exactly how he felt, but he was still glad his clan had been avenged, even though he hadn't been the one to do it. Part of him wished Itachi had come back so he'd have some family again, but that didn't last long. His older brother Itachi, the one he respected and loved when he was little, had died a long time ago as far as he was concerned. Sasuke wasn't really very surprised to learn that Naruto had QB sealed inside him. It explained a lot of things he always wondered about. What had really shocked him was finding out who Naruto's parents were. The stoic expression he was known for dropped off for almost 2 minutes at hearing that, which got a laugh from Naruto at breaking his mask, something he'd been trying to do since they'd first met. But even that news paled in comparison when he found out what had happened during the 3-year training mission. When Naruto dropped his henge, he was the sole witness to something so rare most didn't think it possible. Sasuke Uchiha fainted. He wasn't out long, but when he woke he made Naruto promise, on everything he was, that he'd never tell anyone what had happened, not even Tsunade, even if it cost him his life. Naruto agreed, but on the condition he come to his housewarming party that coming Saturday and for once take that sick out of his butt and be a regular person and have a good time. Though a little upset for a minute, he knew Naruto well. If he didn't agree, Naruto would tell everyone in the village he'd fainted. That was something he couldn't allow. His reputation, not to mention his image, would be destroyed. Plus there was the added thought that hearing he'd fainted would make his fangirls, that he knew were still out there, want him even more. That thought sent a shiver down his back. He agreed to try, but no promises. It wasn't much, but Naruto knew he'd started forging a new friendship with Sasuke, and hopefully expanded his family by one more person. It'd take time, but Naruto could wait for Sasuke to come around to his way of thinking about things. The worst part of the week, and toughest moment of his life, no comparison, was his first couple meetings with Tayuya. Lucky for Naruto, Tsunade was there with him, but to say that she was grateful he freed her from Orochimaru and that curse mark was the understatement of the century. As he'd found out that day, when Tayuya wanted to do or say something, she did it without regard to where she was or who was around. And unlike Hinata, as he discovered the hard way, much to his extreme embarrassment, she wasn't shy. Naruto doubted she even knew what the word meant. When he'd first walked into her hospital room, she'd been sitting on the side of her bed waiting for him like a big red puppy. She immediately dropped her hospital gown, the top half anyway. The waist was securely tied, once again revealing her huge, round. But Tsunade had stopped her before she could rush him for what would be a very sexual hug. At least it would be if Naruto had stayed awake. A few seconds after seeing her, which were about the size of her head, he'd fainted from embarrassment, his face a deep red. After Radata pulled her gown back up, she helped Tsunade sit him in the chair by the bed. Tsunade had a woman-to-woman talk with her. Tsunade briefly ran through the clan issue, and wasn't surprised in the least by the Buster Redhead's reaction. She'd happily marry Naruto and bear his children. Tsunade made her promise to slow down, and let Naruto come to her. This was a new area for him. Unlike her, his experience was limited to hugs and the occasional kiss. Tsunade also told her there were some very important and secret things about Naruto that she'd find out later, then told Tayuya about Hinata's lifelong not-so-secret crush on Naruto, and Sakura's new realization about her feeling for the rather naive blonde knucklehead. Tayuya told Tsunade she hated being second to any woman, especially when love was involved, which she saw worried Tsunade, but for Naruto she'd back off and stop coming on so strong, as Naruto obviously wasn't ready for her yet. If I have to share him with a few other girls, I will. And besides, the more the merrier, Tayuya said with a devilish grin. You're pretty hot yourself, Tsunade-chan. Tsunade's eyes got big as saucers and her jaw dropped. And I do love a woman who can match, or especially surpass me, Tayuya said playfully, as she ran her right index finger down the 7 inches of bare cleavage Tsunade was showing. A suddenly red-faced Tsunade stood up, adjusted her worn green jacket to cover more cleavage than usual and looked down at a grinning Tayuya. It took everything Tsunade had to push down her blush and keep from fainting. Then she woke Naruto and left. Tsunade went straight to the ladies' room where she splashed cold water on her face before she lost her composure completely. It took at her willpower to stop herself. She almost shoved her hands inside her clothes. Tayuya wasn't as direct in the next meeting, but she still made him nervous. Naruto was surprised to see that Tsunade seemed to get a little nervous around Tayuya a few times, and he'd swear he saw her cheeks get a little pink, but couldn't figure out why. He got Tayuya to stop swearing, though it took a couple days for her to learn to change a habit she'd developed growing up on the street. She'd slip occasionally, but overall Naruto was happy with how hard she tried to change for him. She'd stop flashing her chest to him and kissing him without warning, but she'd still press against him whenever she had an opportunity. She'd been told about Orochimaru and the Akatsuki, and had promised not to mention it to anyone that didn't already know, but she wasn't told everything at once. 2 days after that, when they were sure about her, she learned the rest. She didn't react quite like they expected. With what she'd been through with her former team and the curse marks, she wasn't fazed at all. In fact, she thought he was even better looking than before. She especially liked his ears. Saturday, 9:50 a.m. Everything ready? Tsunade said. Sakura, Hinata and Naruto scanned everything with expert eyes, then smiled and nodded to Tsunade. Good. Okay Naruto, let's go greet your guests, Tsunade said. Naruto smiled ear to ear, his tails waved excitedly behind him. Tsunade had to smile at how happy he was, and how good he looked in his new clothes. She smiled as she recalled how, with help from Hinata, Sakura and Ino, they'd almost dragged him to a local clothing store called the Iron Kimono. It was one of the few places in town that hadn't refused service to, or overcharged, Naruto, though he'd never actually gone inside the store. If he had, he'd have discovered that she didn't hate him like most adults did just because he had Kyuubi sealed inside him. It was owned by a former Jounin kunoichi named Hotaru A/N Firefly. She'd retired about 20 years ago after she lost her entire team on a mission. Her clothing store specialized in casual and formal clothes for shinobi that could double as battle gear if needed. The orange-haired woman, although in her late 30s, was still very attractive with the firm body you'd expect an experienced kunoichi to have, and a very ample chest that jiggled when she moved. She'd helped them find new clothes for the nervous, blonde-haired shinobi. She'd seen him around quite often, and knew about what a good person he was from IM, who she talked with twice a week at Ichiraku Ramen during her away lunch break, as well as Anko and Kurenai, who visited her shop once a week, if in the village, to check out the new clothes and make an occasional purchase. But they mainly went there to catch up on the special Kunoichi-only gossip. Although one of Anko and Kurenai's few vices, it was also a main source for all the information gathering Anko did for Tsunade as a permanent weekly C-rank mission, a fact she'd never admit. It's what paid for Anko's frequent feasts at her favorite dango stand, an occasional ramen feast with Naruto at his favorite stand. One of the new outfits they chose, with a little resistance from Naruto, who didn't see anything wrong with his orange jumpsuit, finally decided he liked the formal outfit once he had it on. Black long-sleeve shirt with orange trim and a large orange swirl on the back. He'd insisted on keeping some orange in his new clothes and absolutely refused to budge on the issue, even under threats, non-fatal of course, that scared him to his core. Loose black pants, also trimmed in orange, and a black jacket with orange flame trim and a large orange swirl on the back, and black shinobi boots that work in any situation. He'd gotten a dozen similar outfits, some casual, in different color variations, as well as 4 trench coats, 2 black, 2 white, with orange flame trim. Naruto wanted to run to the gate to let everyone in, but Tsunade insisted he walk with them, since some of Naruto's friends and their parents are, or were, shinobi. The few of them on the council already knew of Naruto's new look. Those that weren't, like Sakura's mother for example, Tsunade had a long, private chat with. At first Tsunade was agitated that the woman was uncomfortable with Naruto. She'd known he had the QB sealed in him. She still kinda thought of him as a possible threat to the village. When Tsunade told her the full truth about who his father was and the sacrifice he'd made with his own son, she'd burst into uncontrollable tears and collapsed in utter shame. If she could have willed herself to death, she would have. She came around eventually, and was told by Tsunade very bluntly, and quite graphically, what would happen to her if she spoke of this or did anything against Naruto. The pink-haired woman bowed to Tsunade as low as she was physically able and gave her most solemn vow, and that she'd do anything to make it up to Naruto. She judged him so harshly and never got to know him. When Sakura had returned home that night, she'd been greeted with a big hug from her mother, followed by a long mother-daughter chat that ended with a very happy Sakura who cried and hugged her mother tightly. The only reason Tsunade had told her was because Naruto wanted his friends' families to join the party. He didn't want any secrets from his friends or their family. That was one of the things Tsunade loved the knucklehead for, his heart. Tsunade's toughest challenge had been Hinata's father Hayashi, head of the main branch of the Hyuga clan and council member. He knew his daughter Hinata loved Naruto, but even after he'd learned the whole truth, with the rest of the council, and had apologized for his previous opinion of, and comments about Naruto, he seemed to not be totally convinced. When Hinata told him about the housewarming party and his invitation, he'd insisted on a meeting with Naruto and Hinata to discuss their possible future. Tsunade had come along. Hayashi had told her Naruto was in no danger, but she'd insisted, and as Hokage he couldn't refuse her. He'd been a little surprised when he finally saw Naruto's true appearance, but had basically maintained his composure. He talked rather extensively to Naruto, and occasionally asked for Hinata's opinion, and ended by very bluntly asking if he intended to take Hinata as one of his wives. Both had blushed, but what had caught everyone off guard was when Hinata stepped forward. "Hi, father," Hinata said strongly, and actually stood up to him. Her body language clearly told everyone she would fight him if he tried to separate them and deny her the love of her life. Hayashi gave Hinata a glare she knew all too well. It normally sent her to the floor cowering. This time she didn't even flinch. After a very long 10 seconds, the tension broke when Hayashi smiled at her. He was proud of her. She'd finally stood up to him. He'd never seen such strength from her before. Then he gave his approval for her to marry him. "I'm going to be Hinata Namikaze." Hinata turned to Naruto, obviously about to say something. They never found out what it was. The full impact of the situation had finally hit Naruto, and it had shut his mind down. At that moment, if you'd asked him, Naruto couldn't have told you what his name was. Naruto's face was paler than Hinata's eyes, and they'd all swear that even his hair seemed to have gotten pale. "I'm going to be married," Naruto said almost mechanically, before he fainted. Tsunade reminded a very excited Hinata of something. "He hasn't actually asked you yet, so until he does, keep this to yourself and let Naruto do this his way." Hinata nodded and calmed herself. They got to the main gate just in time. Naruto opened the gates like any other door. The blood seal was only for the special seal used to protect the compound in extreme situations, like if the village is attacked. The normal security seals were enough to stop most threats, even high-level jounin. His henge activated, Naruto opened the gates. "Hello, welcome to the Namikaze compound," Naruto said with a huge smile, stepped aside and waved everyone in proudly. He greeted everyone as they entered. Most carried at least one nicely wrapped box with his name on it, and all dressed in formal, but not too much, attire. He told everyone that there would be plenty of fun activities and to bring a more casual change of clothes. An odd request, but everyone did as asked. They figured there'd most likely be some sparring or something similar. Everyone that knew him well was all too aware of how Naruto felt about stuffy formal parties and meetings. Tsunade, Shizen, Hinata and Sakura knew what was coming. They'd help Naruto set it up. Once everyone was inside, they stared in awe at the huge 2-story house and front grounds. He closed the gate, which promptly resealed. Hiashi was impressed by that. He'd have to ask Naruto about that later. He could use it at the Hyuga compound. Naruto stepped back in front of the group with Tsunade and Shizen. Sakura and Hinata joined their families. Now that everyone is inside and the gate is closed, I don't need this anymore. With a quick hand sign and puff of smoke, Naruto dispelled his henge. He stood there in his true form and new clothes. He'd practiced a special henge just for that occasion. Everyone was surprised when the smoke cleared, not just for his new fox features, but because of his new clothes. Nobody had mentioned the shopping trip. Naruto wanted to surprise everyone. The initial shock wore off quickly and they were soon complimenting him on his new clothes, and the few that hadn't seen it yet liked his new fox-like appearance, but admitted it'd take them a while to get used to it. By the time Naruto finished the tour of the front grounds, many of the women said they loved the flower gardens and asked if they could have some clippings for their flower gardens when they left. The few parents that were nervous at first openly hugged Naruto and told him how handsome he was, or how cute he was, to his embarrassment, and how they loved the compound so far. Some of the guests, his friends and former rivals from other teams, had changed a lot in the 3 years he was gone. He'd only noticed a small change at the meeting a week ago, but now he could really see a big difference in Neji. He'd really relaxed a lot, for a Hyuga anyway. He was still logical and arrogant, but nowhere near as bad as he was during the Chunin exams, and he'd lost the our fate is determined at birth outlook on life. He'd made up with Hinata and treated her like a sister. He even seemed to be rather protective of her. He wasn't the same person that had tried to kill Hinata 3 years ago in their match. And near them since they came in, of course, was Hanabi, Hinata's little sister. She'd had a huge "you're so cute, I wanna snuggle you" look on her face since he dropped his henge. She was just like Hinata in so many ways, but wasn't as shy. Though she was 3 years younger than Hinata, Naruto had developed an eye for women and could see that Hanabi had started to blossom into a beauty like Hinata, maybe even faster. And from the way Konohamaru got nervous every time they saw each other, she'd already turned some heads. She also dressed like Hinata used to. In fact, he'd swear that she wore Hinata's old gray jacket. Something about the way she wore it made him think, of all his guests, there were 3 Naruto was happiest to see make it. Before they went into the house, everyone took a few minutes to either look at the flower garden or visit with people they didn't get many chances to talk to in a social situation for various reasons. Naruto had already asked Hinata and Sakura to take in all the presents so they didn't have to carry them the whole time, which they did happily. He'd use this time to catch up with them. He walked up to them quietly. Naruto saw what one of them was doing very subtly, but not for Naruto's senses. Naruto just couldn't help himself to a little prank. On the way he saw the two with his target see him sneak up on the other member of the trio. He gave them a "please don't tell him" look. The girl nodded ever so slightly with a slight smirk. The boy didn't seem to react at all, but Naruto saw agreement in his eyes. Naruto got close before he made his move. Several people nearby saw what was coming and silently let the others capable of reading their subtle signals to watch the approaching entertainment. "She's even more impressive topless," Naruto said from right behind him. It was a true statement, but only 2 other people there knew it. One was Tsunade, the other was the object of the boy's subtle stare at her. "Ah!" He yelled and spun around, angry he got caught, ready to attack the person that did it until he saw who it was. "Naruto! Don't do that to me!" Everyone that had seen it burst into laughter. "That's what you get for staring at a woman's chest, Kankuro, you pervert," Temari said. "Sorry, Temari," Kankuro said apologetically, quite entertaining Naruto. Gaara said emotionlessly. "Thanks, Gaara, I'm glad you could make it. I know from Tsunade how much work is involved in being a Hokage." "Congratulations, by the way," Naruto said. "Thank you, Naruto," Gaara said, his expression never changed in the slightest. Naruto mimicked Gaara's pose and expression. "You've loosened up since I last saw you," Naruto said with the same emotionless tone Gaara used. Naruto smiled when he saw the corners of Gaara's mouth curl slightly in amusement. Gaara gave a thumbs up and faked a big Naruto-like grin. "I'm mimicking you, believe it?" Naruto's jaw hit the ground in shock, as did Temari's and the nearby adults that knew him from the Chunin exams. Did Gaara just?" Naruto said in shock at what he'd just seen and heard. Gaara returned to his normal pose and laughed, not the psychotic laugh of 3 years ago, but a genuine friendly laugh, though brief. "He gotcha, I don't believe it!" Kankuro yelled. Everyone turned to look at the hysterically Kankuro, who'd been forgotten in the komaten. "The great prankster was outdone by my little brother Gaara," Kankuro said red-faced. Everyone laughed at that, including Naruto. "It's great seeing you again, Gaara, I admit defeat." Gaara actually gave a full genuine smile at this. "Thank you, Naruto." Temari stepped up and hugged her youngest brother, then turned to Naruto and smiled in a way that made him a little nervous because the other person he'd seen smile at him like that was Tayuya. "Hey brat, you've grown a lot since I saw you last. I love the place so far, and you look really good. The ears are adorable." Temari was 3 years older than him, and about an inch taller, but he noticed, extremely subtly so as not to upset her, that she was about as well developed as Tayuya, based on how her slightly baggy shirt fit her. Her blonde hair was now down to her waist, but still in her signature 4 ponytails. Oh, and thanks for teaching Kankuro a lesson for spying on that girl. Is that Tayuya from 3 years ago? I thought I killed her? Temari said. Naruto quickly pulled Temari aside to talk privately. Yes, it is. She was severely injured and almost died. She's been in a coma since then, and just came out of it last week when I removed her curse mark. Temari was surprised to say the least, but Naruto quickly told her the basics and said he'd explain more later if she wanted. She agreed. She didn't want to hold up the tour. Everyone gathered by the door and Naruto led them into the main hall. Everyone was extremely impressed. The floor was white marble. The large couch was ornately carved in beautifully stained wood with black leather cushions. The 2 chairs were similarly designed, large and very comfortable. All the tables in the room were large and sturdy, but beautifully crafted. All the women in the room, regardless of age, followed Tsunade around the room as she told them about the furniture, and all the pictures and paintings on the walls. On the wall to the left of the door as you enter, about 25 feet away, was a huge stone fireplace with mantel, above which hung on the wall was an extraordinarily beautiful katana. The women recognized it instantly because of who used to wield it, and as expected, Tenten didn't just stare at it, she drooled over it. Tsunade didn't say anything, especially when Tenten called her father over to see it, but Tentens were nearly tenting her loose silk dress. She was so excited. The girl has a serious weapon fetish, and it looks like some real long. I'd better send her to Hataru's tomorrow for some clothes. Tsunade thought and smirked. It only took 5 minutes of some of the most earnest begging you've ever heard in your life for Naruto to take it down and let Tenten and her father examine it closely. Housewarming party, Namikaze compound. Tenten was not a happy girl when her father made her release the katana so Naruto could put it away and they could continue the tour. She felt better when Naruto promised he'd make it up to her later. She saw the grin on his face, and knew Naruto never broke a promise, so she smiled and relented. Tenten loved the house, especially when she saw a weapon on the wall, but she kept her composure for the rest of the tour mostly. She knew it'd be worth it. I can always go back and look at it later, Tenten thought with a smile. She knew cooking wasn't really her thing, as anyone who tasted her food would testify to, but she was very impressed by the kitchen. It was massive. She did comment expertly on the knives though. They were weapon quality, and as sharp as the blades sold in her father's shop, which he agreed on after he checked for himself. That made Naruto smile. Everything they saw was handmade. Nothing in the entire house was mass-produced, not even the towels in the bathrooms, which were as large as most of the shops in the village. The private hot spring at the back of the house was even bigger. It's one of the only 3 in the village. The second was at the public bathhouse, the last being in the Hokage mansion. The first floor, everyone soon discovered, was more like a first-class resort than a home. The second floor, however, was like a hotel in many ways, primarily due to all the bedrooms. Also on the second floor was the Namikaze family library. Tsunade told the amazed group, with a little embarrassment, that it was even more extensive than the library at the Hokage compound. The collection of books and scrolls had everyone glassy-eyed, especially after Tsunade told them that there were scrolls here even the Hokage library didn't have. Many were collected from around the world, but most were created by Naruto's father Minato, who was a master of creating new seals and jutsu of every kind, taijutsu, genjutsu and ninjutsu, as well as every element from the 5 common affinities to the extremely rare metal affinity, which even Tsunade had only seen once in her life. A few are bloodline related and usable only by members of certain clans, Jiraiya said, then smirked at Tsunade knowingly. Curious, everyone turned to Tsunade, who immediately changed the subject and glared venomously at Jiraiya. Naruto didn't say where it was, but he mentioned there was a special vault of scrolls that were far too powerful to keep in the library, similar to the forbidden scrolls of the Hokage. One book in particular caught everyone's attention as they prepared to continue the tour. Most had missed it when they came in. It was a huge book, 3 feet wide by 4 feet high and 8 inches thick. It was very old, but in very good condition. It was leather-bound with a familiar orange swirl on the cover, and had a black metal lock on it. What's in it, Naruto-kun? Sakura asked, her love of books and scrolls no secret. I don't know, Sakura-chan, Naruto said, scratched the back of his head and smiled. She won't let me open it yet, but we're pretty sure that key from the box I got is for the lock. I do know that it's from Dad's family, a special Namikaze album or something, right Bachan? Tsunade's left eyebrow twitched. Hi, and for now it stays locked, you lil brat. Naruto frowned and glared at Tsunade. With the last few rooms checked, one of which was the master bedroom that Naruto used, everyone headed downstairs to the dining hall where a huge buffet was being set up by the newly hired staff. After a brief struggle with Chuji to keep him from starting early, Naruto took everyone out the back door to get to the last part of the tour, including a whimpering Chuji who waved to the food. I'll see you soon, Chuji said to the food. As all the guests discovered, the bulk of the compound was the grounds behind the house. The rest was a huge obstacle course that even to the Jounin present looked formidable. There were 4 separate training areas, each with its own unique features, and an almost 2-acre lake. Before we get to the fun, let's go back to the house and get some food, Naruto said. Chuji cheered. We're gonna need it, Naruto said seriously and smirked. Some of them laughed, a few excitedly, and a couple quite nervously the way Naruto's tails waved excitedly behind him. Not everyone was worried, or even excited about what was going to happen, as some of the adults weren't skilled shinobi, so they couldn't enjoy the training areas and obstacle course, which everyone figured was part of what Naruto had planned. Once back inside the house, everyone dug in, though only a few with as much enthusiasm as Naruto ate ramen. Everyone found at least 2 things they loved, and Chuji had no problems at all. He methodically worked his way down the tables. Naruto stopped counting after Chuji filled his 12th plate. His only repeat item was his favorite, barbecued pork. There were several highlights during the meal, but everyone's favorite was, without a doubt, a certain guest's reaction to finding one of the 6 by 15-foot food tables contained every conceivable variety of dango. Several of the guests, like Kurenai, could swear they saw Anko's eyes tear up as she slowly approached the table as if she was meeting Kami in person. Coming in a very close second though was Naruto's potentially fatal mistake of actually telling Anko it was his idea to do a dango table before she'd starting indulging in her favorite food in the world. Even years later many would talk about how if it wasn't for the nearby Kurenai and Tsunade, Anko very likely would have literally squeezed the life out of Naruto. She'd hugged him so hard. He did faint though, mainly because Anko had squeezed basically all the air from his lungs. Once he woke up she'd apologized profusely. Unlike the hugging incident a week ago, she didn't care if they told people about this. What no one heard though, was as the lunch feast ended Anko whispered to Naruto, "That's to I owe you, Naruto-kun," Anko said very slyly. Luckily he was on the edge of the crowd and excused himself to use the restroom. What he actually did was splash some cold water on his face while using all his willpower to keep from fainting as the tone of her voice was unmistakable. "Kami, help me, what did I get myself into?" Naruto said. Kurenai approached Anko a moment later after she saw the very brief smirk on Anko's lips. But before she even got a word out Anko gave her a very sly wink and walked away. Kurenai quietly sighed, subtly shook her head in defeat, and made a decision she'd fought for years. "I give up." "You win, Anko." Kurenai looked around for the only person she'd trust with this, and found her. Lunch finally ended and afterward everyone chatted a while. Naruto walked around and was actually amazed that there wasn't a morsel of food left on any table. Then he happened to see a certain friend sitting very relaxed in one of his big chairs when it hit him. "He's been sitting there for 20 minutes, and I haven't heard a single crunch. Looks like Chuji finally reached his limit," Naruto thought and laughed quietly. Not wanting to interrupt anyone, Naruto waved over an attractive brunette house girl his age currently working in the kitchen for the party, and had her tell the staff to wait until the guests went into the main hall before they came in to clean up. Then he went back to sit and talk with his friends. 2 o'clock finally came around and everyone was finally up and mobile again. So with a huge smile on his face Naruto called everyone into the main hall. Some guests looked around at details they'd missed the first time, or things they really liked. It was time to open his housewarming gifts. Everyone gathered around the presents stacked by the currently unlit fireplace. Naruto sat in the only chair near it with an ear-to-ear grin. "Who's first?" Naruto almost squealed. "Almost. The best of course," Niji said in the tone he used to use that Naruto hated, but it was done in a friendly way this time. Niji and Hayashi stepped up and Niji handed Naruto their gift. "I never properly thanked you what you did for me, but I believe this will do." Naruto unwrapped the box and opened it, his eyes almost bugged out at what he saw. He lifted out a book on the chakra points of the body and held up for all to see. "You can't see them as we can, but this should prove very useful. It's from our family library," Niji said. Naruto thanked them and bowed. Me next, me next," a girl squealed. Naruto turned to the source and smiled. "What did you get me for my new house, Hanabi-chan?" Naruto said and smiled at her. Hanabi's face turned pink and she wobbled slightly, so Hinata stepped close, held her shoulders to steady her little sister, and smiled. Naruto opened it and smiled even bigger. "To be the best Hokage you have to know the best taijutsu," Hanabi said proudly, which got quiet laughter from many of them. "Thank you, Hanabi-chan. This book about your gentle fist style will go great with Niji's gift." Naruto gave her a bow then leaned down and lightly kissed her forehead. "Naruto-kun." Hanabi reached up and touched her forehead. "Kissed me," Hanabi said, turned bright red and fainted. After Hanabi was carried away, to everyone's amusement, Sakura and her mother stepped up with their gift retrieved from the stack. Sakura had helped stack them and knew exactly where her gift was. Naruto opened the rather large box and his jaw dropped. After a moment of stunned silence, Naruto looked at the pink-haired mother and daughter. "I hope this gift will in some small way make up for my past misdeeds, Naruto-sama." The pink-haired mother bowed as respectfully as she can, her heart and soul put into it. Sakura bowed. "Please forgive me also, Naruto-sama." The whole room was suddenly dead quiet, having just heard how Sakura referred to Naruto. The box contained a set of 14 very expensive, and ornately custom-painted to fit Naruto's style, ramen bowls. "Sakura-chan, Sakari-chan. A/N, Sakari Bloom, please, it's okay, I forgive you," Naruto said. Both stood, smiled at Naruto very warmly, blushed slightly, then thanked him and quickly stepped aside. Even splitting the price between them, the set of ramen bowls had taken a huge chunk out of both their life savings, half of Sakura's and a third of Sakari's, but they didn't care. They were going to wipe the slate clean with Naruto and give him the proper friendship and respect they should have been doing his entire life, instead of judging him so quickly. Sakura was satisfied that she'd made up with Naruto for everything she'd done to him. Sakari was too until she heard a voice from deep within her mind. She hadn't heard it in 19 years. It's not enough, the female voice said. Sakari tensed up a little. No, it can't be you, Sakari thought as a woman appeared in her mind, 2 words tattooed on her forehead. The woman smiled and disappeared from her mind. All the gifts were very nice, and reflected each giver's individual relationship with Naruto. The best though was the final gift, and it was from the most unexpected of people, Gaara. When he opened the box, Naruto was confused. Inside it was a flat brick of what looked and felt like sandstone. It was 3 inches thick, 8 inches wide, 10 inches long, and on the top, inside an engraved 6-inch circle, was the kanji for sand. I don't understand, Naruto said nervously, but politely. Who are your most precious people? Gaara said emotionlessly. What my little brother is getting to in his own way is that this is a very special stone. First let me show you what it does. Temari said, looked around, then smiled mischievously. Hey Red, yeah, you with the great rack. Naruto blushed slightly. With a big smile, Tayuya moved close to them. Tayuya, touch the stone and put some chakra into it, Temari said. Tayuya did so. She'd gotten very close to the Wind Mistress earlier that day after she found out they were similar in many ways. Okay Naruto, now set it down, Temari said. Naruto looked around a moment, then got up, walked to the coffee table and set it down so everyone could see it. Temari stepped up to Tayuya and whispered in her ear a moment. Tayuya looked at her new best friend, shrugged and headed out of the room. Where's Tayuya going? Naruto said, confused. It's part of the demonstration. Give her a minute. Temari waited until she heard a door close. Okay Naruto, now make these seals. She showed him a series of one-handed signs. Gather a small amount of chakra, picture her in your mind and call her name. Naruto nodded, closed his eyes for a moment to focus himself, opened his eyes with determination on his face to get this right the first time. Here goes, Naruto said, raised his right hand and flashed through the one-handed seals almost perfectly. Tayuya. Inside the circle on the brick, sand seemed to rise up from within it, and in a matter of seconds a very realistic 8-inch sand statue of Tayuya was there. Everyone gasped in surprise, even Hayashi is so impressed that it showed on his normally emotionless face. About 5 seconds later everyone's jaw hit the floor as it moved, though it didn't leave the circle. Moving isn't quite accurate, it did an extremely erotic, but brief dance, the highlight of which was the Tayuya image shook her huge. The second the dancing started, the younger kids had their eyes covered by a parent, or adult, namely Hanabi and Konohamaru. Finishing the dance, which left Naruto red-faced, it started walking in place. So what happened? Tayuya said as she entered the room. Everyone turned her, their expression made her stop. Some noticed the sand. Tayuya did too. It's mimicking her, Kiba yelled. Tayuya, come here, you have to see this. A still slightly embarrassed Naruto said. Tayuya walked over to the table. The people around Naruto moved aside so Tayuya could see the small sand clone. So why's everyone looking at me like? Tayuya stopped when she saw her little sand clone on the brick. She raised then lowered one, the other, then both arms, even shook her head to wave her long red hair, and was amazed to see that the small sand clone of her did exactly what she did. That's fucking incredible, Tayuya yelled, then slapped her hands over her mouth, her face red from embarrassment at swearing so loud in front of everyone, especially 2 little kids, when she promised herself she wouldn't do that to Naruto. I'm sorry Naruto, I didn't mean to. Everyone laughed, including Naruto. He composed himself for a moment when he saw her reaction. It's okay Tayuya, it was an accident, and understandable. He hugged her gently. Aro let her know he wasn't mad at her for her slip. Wait a second, Tayuya turned and glared at Temari. You mean you all saw what I did in there? Temari ubi. Tayuya caught herself this time, but was very angry. I'll get you for this, blondie, Tayuya said as she stared daggers at Temari, who just smiled back at her and acted innocent. Kiba and Kankura laughed at the 2 most buxom girls there, but only Kiba stared at both. And you yell at me for doing this stuff, Temari? You're worse than me, Kankura said, very amused and proud at what his sister did. Shut it, Temari snapped at Kiba and her little brother. Kiba stopped, but Kankura kept laughing. Excuse me a moment, Naruto, Temari said before she grabbed Kankura's collar and dragged him into the nearby bedroom and shut the door. Gaara, will this work for anyone? Naruto said. Gaara nodded. Have anyone you want put some chakra into it, and you can check on them no matter where they are. Do I dispel it like I would a shadow clone? Naruto said. Hi, just will it to stop, or call another name to see someone else, Gaara said in his normal monotone voice. That's incredible, Gaara. Did you do this? Will this work for anyone, or just me? I wouldn't want someone to take this and use it to hurt someone I care about, Naruto said nervously. Only for you, Naruto, Shikaka made sure of that. Everyone nearby suddenly went silent. Information Naruto gained from fusing with Kyuubi suddenly appeared in his mind. Ah, I see, Naruto said as understanding appeared on his face. Everyone else was still confused. I can't really explain it, but basically it's because Gaara has, and I did have, a tailed demon sealed inside us. Everyone nodded. A scream suddenly reverberated throughout the room, Everyone turned in the direction Temari dragged her brother. Temari suddenly opened the door and walked out, a cruel smile on her face. Tsunade-sama, my brother could use some medical attention. You didn't break anything, did you? Naruto asked her nervously. Temari stopped. Break? Temari smiled and cracks her knuckles. No, definitely bruised, but nothing was broken. Tsunade crossed the hall to the room where Kankura was, stopped at the doorway and suddenly turned back to face them. Temari! Tsunade yelled. Temari giggled. He's had that coming for a couple weeks. This just gave me a reason. Both? Tsunade asked, curious but still annoyed. Temari nodded, smiled and loosened up her fingers like she just squeezed something hard. He's lucky he's your brother. I'd hate to see what you do to an enemy. Tsunade said. Everyone looked at Temari nervously while Tsunade entered the room and shut the door. Not wanting to think about what he's pretty sure she did to him, Naruto changed the topic of conversion. Okay everyone, before we get to my surprises I need to talk to Gaara privately. I want to thank everyone for the great presents. Please go out back and we'll join you in a few minutes. Everyone nodded, and after a few people hugged him, they all left the room towards the back door. Behind the house, 16 minutes later. Come on Tayuya, you know you thought that was funny and don't even try to deny that you do the same thing. Tsunade told Tayuya in a stern voice. Alright, you're right, and I wasn't embarrassed. I'd do that again right here in front of everyone, especially for Naruto-kun. Tayuya smirked slyly. I'm just upset I wasn't in on it, that's all. Tsunade-sama, you know how I feel about Naruto-kun. I'd do anything for him, even give my life. It's not that I didn't enjoy making him blush, but Temari used me like he used to. Tayuya said sadly. That's what upset me. I respect Temari, but, okay Tayuya, I understand. I'll go talk to Temari. Tsunade said. Thank you Tsunade-sama. Tayuya said. Tsunade walked over to Temari as she verbally thrashed Kiba for his comments about what happened. Kankura just stood there humble and quiet. Tsunade saved a grateful Kiba from further abuse. Before she took Temari to Tayuya, Tsunade briefly explained some things about Tayuya that Temari didn't know. Temari held her composure until Tsunade took her back. She stood in front of the equally endowed redhead, her back to everyone so they couldn't see her face. I'm sorry Tayuya, I didn't understand your situation. Temari said with sincerity and humility, something very few had ever seen from her. Friends don't do that to each other, and I deeply apologize for what I did. Temari bowed her head slightly and looked at the ground. Had I known your history, I would have told you my whole plan instead of using you like that. I've never really had a best friend, much less as beautiful and fun to be with as you are. Do you forgive me? Tayuya smiled. Tsunade-sama pointed out to me a few minutes ago that I'd have done the same thing. I was just upset you didn't let me in on the prank, instead of using me like a tool, like he did. Temari flinched. I forgive you Temari, but you owe me big for this. Temari's smile faded and she swallowed nervously. Hi Tayuya. Temari nodded. Tsunade smiled. Now with that settled, you two girls go have fun. Tsunade said. Temari and Tayuya smiled at Tsunade. Before you go Temari, I need to tell you, as the Hokage, what you did to Kankura and there was a little beyond what's repeatable here, especially at Naruto's housewarming party. Tsunade said seriously. Temari's confidence took a dramatic nosedive as Tsunade's words sink in. And although it was technically family business, you should have handled it better. If you'd squeezed any harder, you might have been at ANBU headquarters with Ibiki right now instead of Naruto's party with me. Tsunade said seriously. Temari nodded. Dear Kami, please don't let me have ruined this. Temari thought. It came close to being disrespectful to Naruto. If he wasn't so forgiving towards his friends, you would have insulted Naruto as your host, and me as his friend. His Hokage. Tsunade looked right into Temari's eyes. And his godmother. Temari swallowed hard and got very worried she'd offended the one woman in the world she truly respected and admired. I would have been personally dishonored and would have taken immediate action against you with everything I have. Am I being perfectly clear, Temari? Tsunade said with a very low growl in her voice. Temari bowed with as much respect as she could, and didn't care who watched. This is just between us, and is never to be repeated. As far as anyone is concerned, this conversation never happened. Tsunade's face softened. Let's wrap this up before we spoil the mood. I consider the subject closed and forgotten. Tsunade said and smiled. I'm sorry Tsunade-sama, my temper got away from me. I promise you it won't happen again. Temari said sincerely. However, before they could rejoin the crowd, Naruto and Gaara came out. The red-haired Sannin found and joined his siblings, both of which were even quieter than Gaara usually was, a fact he noticed immediately. Okay everyone. I have a couple things planned I hope you'll all enjoy. Before I tell you though, everyone needs to change into the other clothes they brought. I'd hate for you to ruin your good clothes. Everyone talked nervously, but excitedly among themselves. Namikaze compound, training grounds. Naruto looked out at his new family and smiled happily. Before we do that though, I have a surprise for some of you. Would Gaara, Shino, Tenten, Sakura, Hanabi, and last but definitely not least, Tayuya. Come over here please. Despite the order they were called, Hanabi is the first to Naruto and hugged him excitedly. If you want your present Hanabi-chan, I'll need my arms. Naruto said and smiled at the girl. Hanabi released him and blushed slightly. Naruto reached into a pocket, removed a scroll, unrolled and laid it on the ground while everyone he named looked at him curiously. Naruto did a series of hand signs and touched the kanji on it, which unsealed the contents of the scroll with a puff of smoke. When it cleared a moment later, there were 6 wrapped boxes of various shapes and sizes on the ground. Naruto rolled up and pocketed the scroll. Shino and Gaara stood there emotionless. Sakura smiled happily, while Tenten and Hanabi bounced up and down lightly and struggled to hold in their happiness. If not for the size difference, you'd never know Tenten was 3 years older than Hanabi by the way both giggled so happily. Tayuya, to Naruto's slight confusion, just stood there and stared at him in total disbelief, as if this wasn't really happening to her. Since it's late April and I just back last week, I missed something important, your birthdays, Naruto said with a big foxy grin. I helped him, Sakura, he wanted to surprise you, Tsunade said with a smile. Sakura turned to her sensei. I helped too, Sakura-chan, Hinata said a little meekly. Sakura turned quickly toward Hinata, surprised for a moment that her friend could be so sneaky. Sakura smiled and gave Hinata a little bow. Naruto picked up a box. First, I have a present for my demon brother. Gaara smirked noticeably, then stepped up and accepted the gift. Go ahead and open it, Naruto said. Gaara opened it and removed a scroll, which he opened and read. A moment later, Gaara smiled. Thank you, Naruto, you never fail to amaze me. What's on it? Kankura asked loudly, and got a light slap to the back of his head from Temari. Gaara looked at his siblings. It's 3 new Sanjutsu. Cool, Kankura yelled, which earned him another slap to the back of his head from Temari. Naruto picked up another present. Shino, in his usual quiet manner, the bug user stepped up, accepted his present, and opened it. Inside was a large scroll. Shino looked at Naruto and raised his eyebrows. Naruto knew that was Shino talk for a very happily asked, is this what I think it is? Naruto smiled. I talked to your parents already. Since you don't have one yet, and I sure can't use it, I want you to have this, Shino. It was just collecting dust in the library. Shino put the box down and carefully removed the large scroll, sat it on the ground, unrolled it from both ends and scanned it quickly. I know what that is, Kobe yelled to his teammate. It's a summoning contract, you lucky dog. Akamaru barked in agreement with his master. We could use the extra power. Which summon clan is it, Shino? Kiba said. The kneeled Shino's smile is hidden by his collar. Beetles, Shino said in his rare monotone voice. He took out his kunai, cut his right thumb, then smeared the blood on the other 4 fingertips of his hand, signed the summon contract with his fingerprints, then closed it and put it in his coat. Thank you, Naruto, Shino said emotionlessly. You'll have to summon one later and introduce your new friends to your teammates. Shino gave a nod to Kiba and stepped back for the next person. Tenten looked at the other boxes, quickly found her name, and pouted. Sorry, Tenten, I didn't get you a summon contract. But if I find any more, I'll let you know. Maybe I'll find one for you. Tenten smiled and bowed. But I did get you something I think you'll like just as much. Naruto held Tenten's gift out for her, but before she could even reach for it, she suddenly froze and her head perked up, as if she heard something. What is it, Tenten? Is something wrong? Naruto said. A huge smile crossed her face that was almost sexual in intensity. Before she took it, Naruto crossed his arms in front of his chest and pouted. You know what it is, don't you? Tenten nodded. How? Naruto said. I heard them touch. Tenten said casually. The birthday guests, as well as Naruto, all looked at Tenten with I didn't hear anything look of confusion. Tenten tore through the wrapping and opened her box like a little kid. Kunai, I knew it. Tenten squealed very happily, before she glomped Naruto. Everyone either smiled or laughed at the childlike reaction of the teen weapon mistress. Luckily for Naruto, Sakura pulled Tenten off him. How did you do that, Tenten? Naruto said, as curious as everyone else. I don't know, Naruto, I just heard them touch. I know the sound of metal touching in my sleep. Tsunade glanced at Jiraiya. When he glanced back, she smirked too subtly for anyone but Jiraiya to detect. Once they regained their composure, Tenten took a better look at her gift. It was 2 kunai, but the blades are 4 inches longer than normal kunai, and they're a blue-tinted silver color, a metal Tenten didn't recognize. She then saw that both had a lightning symbol on the base of the blade, and halfway down the blade was another symbol, but each was different. Tenten lifted one out, and was amazed at how light it was, then saw the scroll along the side of the box. What's the scroll for, Naruto? I know how to use kunai. Naruto smiled. Not these, you don't. Tenten looked at Naruto confused. Put it back in the box and take out the scroll, Naruto said and smiled. She did as told, opened it to see what it said. After she read the scroll, she slowly lowered it, a look of disbelief and amazement on her face. She tried to talk but only ended up looking like a fish out of water. Naruto smiled at her. I know you have a rare elemental affinity, Tenten. Only a FWW other people in the village have a lighting affinity, and only one is a jounin, so I know how much you've wanted to master it but can't find anyone to teach you. Well, I just solved both problems for you. And to help you is your new sensei, me. Tsunade interrupted. Everyone suddenly looked at the blonde Sannin. Tsunade continued. But that scroll also HSS instructions for a very special style of taijutsu that will rid you of your weakness. Tenten blushed in shame and looked at the ground when her idol mentioned her only weakness, her taijutsu. But it'll do a lot more at the higher levels, Tsunade said. Tenten looked at Tsunade with hope in her eyes. It might even make you more powerful than me someday, Tsunade said. Tenten gasped in shock, composed herself quickly, and bowed. She literally folded in half. I'd be most honored to train under you, Tsunade-sensei, Tenten said, stepped up to Naruto and hugged him tightly. As she stood next to Naruto, Tsunade was the only person to hear what Tenten whispered in Naruto's ear that turned his face bright red. Tenten! Naruto almost yelled as he tried to push down his embarrassment. She smiled at him, blushed brightly, and stepped away. Tsunade smirked and held in her laughter. Tsunade saw Sakura about to ask a question, caught her glance and shook her head slightly, which silently told the pink-haired kunoichi don't ask. Sakura had a basic idea of what Tenten probably said, but kept quiet and smirked. Despite her new respect for Naruto, among other more intense feelings, she had no problem watching him squirm from embarrassment, and held in her laughter so as not to make it worse for him. Besides, there was still her present. Everyone watched, smiled and waited for their host to compose himself again. Naruto glanced at Tenten and questioned her with his eyes. When she nodded subtly back, he let out a small sigh of defeat and returned her subtle nod, which made her smile. I'm either the luckiest guy in the world, or I'm cursed, Naruto thought as he tried to adjust to all the attention he'd gotten from women since he got back. This has to be Kyuubi's doing, as revenge for being locked up inside me all those years, Naruto thought. Sakura, she squealed happily, which made Naruto flinch slightly. He knew this would probably be a repeat of Tenten glossated at her quickly and knew Tayuya was still coming. Dread filled him at how she was gonna react to her gift. I didn't think this all the way through, Naruto bled. Your turn, Sakura. She stepped up and took her gift from him. Please don't embarrass me, Sakura, he whispered to her as he handed over her gift. She smirked at him and whispered back, I'll try, but no promises. Naruto sighed quietly in defeat, now fully aware that he was in for a long day. Sakura stepped back and opened her small box, not sure what it was based on the previous gifts she's seen. It can't be a scroll, the box is too small, and he wouldn't dare get me one of those itchy paradise books Kakashi-sensei is always reading. So what can it be? Open it and find out. Inner Sakura screamed at her. Sakura removed the wrapping and saw a hinged box she instantly knew was made from a cherry blossom tree, and had several pink jewels on it. Everyone looked at Naruto and wondered what was in the beautiful little box. Suddenly thinking this may have a wedding ring in it, Sakura got very nervous, as did much of the crowd. Many of them looked at Sakura's mother Sakari for her reaction. Sakura nervously opened the small box. Her eyes suddenly got very big and seemed to sparkle for a moment before all the color drains from her face. Everyone, especially Naruto, got very nervous at her reaction. Sakura looked up at Naruto, her green eyes as big as saucers. Where did you find this, Naruto? That's the last thing Sakura said before she collapsed to the ground. She'd fainted from shock, the now closed box clenched tight in her right hand. Sakura! Sakari screamed and ran up to her daughter. Tsunade stepped up before anyone could say anything. It's alright everyone, I'll take care of her. You want me to carry her inside, Sakari, or do you want to? I will, Tsunade-sama, Sakari said and scooped up her daughter bridal style. Sakura can tell you later, if she wants to, Tsunade said and got a nod from everyone. Meanwhile, please continue the party, Naruto. Naruto nodded and turned to his next birthday girl. Your turn, Hanabi-chan. A worried Hanabi stepped up to Naruto. Will Sakura-chan be okay, Naruto-kun? She's okay, Hanabi-chan. She was just so happy she fainted, that's all, Naruto said. Hanabi smiled up at him happily. She knew Naruto would never hurt his friends. I heard some things about you, Hanabi, like that you'll be graduating from the academy soon. You'll be a great kunoichi like your sister Hinata, Naruto said. Hanabi nodded and smiled happily. So I got you something to help you. He handed her a familiar-shaped box that she opened and hoped it's what she thought. Yee! Is this a new jutsu scroll, Naruto-kun? Naruto nodded and smiled. Hanabi dropped the box, opened the scroll, excitedly read it, then looked up at Naruto with a huge smile on her face. My first water jutsu. Suddenly Naruto staggered back a few steps. A very happy girl wrapped tightly around him. Her arms and legs tried to crush his neck and waist. Luckily, he tensed up at the last second. Everyone laughed, especially Hinata, who giggled madly at her little sister wrapped around a very embarrassed Naruto. Would somebody help me, please? Naruto said. I don't think we're strong enough, Naruto. I guess you're stuck with her, Tenten said. Naruto glared at the giggling Tenten. He looked out in the crowd at the one person he hoped would help him. Hanabi, let him go. You're embarrassing our host, a male voice commanded. Hanabi's head snapped up. She dropped off Naruto and blushed. I'm sorry, Naruto-sama. I apologize for embarrassing you, Hanabi said before she bowed low. I'm sorry, father. It will not happen again, Hanabi said to Hayashi and bowed again. It's okay, Hanabi, really. Hayashi, don't punish her for this, Naruto said. Hanabi looked at her father. Hayashi's face was serious and stern, then he smirked and bowed slightly. Hanabi smiled, Happy she wasn't in trouble, she knew how strict her father was about things like this. Go on, Hanabi, it's okay. Naruto said. Hi, Naruto-kun. Hanabi walked over to her father and respectfully bowed to him. Naruto smiled when Hishi smirked at him amused. So he does have a sense of humor. Naruto thought. The water jutsu he gave her was a genin level jutsu, but with her Byakugan it'll give her an edge against most opponents once she mastered it. Naruto suddenly recalled something felt strange when she was wrapped around him, and Hinata's hug from before was similar, but he dismissed the thought. No, I've just been hugged too much today, my mind is playing tricks on me. Naruto thought. Hinata watched Naruto and smiled. When she saw his expression change for a moment, like he was in thought, saw him look at Hanabi curiously, then at her for a second, before he shook his head slyly and apparently dismiss it. Does he know? Hinata thought worriedly. She tapped Hanabi's shoulder. When Hanabi looked up at her big sister she saw the "we have to talk later" look in her eyes, and nodded subtly. Naruto got the last gift and handed out for the final birthday girl. Tayuya. No, I can't. I'm not worth, Tayuya said. Tayuya, please take it. With everything you've been through you deserve to be happy. Naruto held out her gift again and smiled. Are you sure, Naruto? I tried to key, Tayuya said nervously. Please, Tayuya, take it, I want you to have this. Naruto insisted. You're sure? Tayuya looked out into the crowd at Temari, her new best friend, who nodded and smiled. Okay. Thank you, Naruto. Tayuya smiled a little, then unwrapped it, lifted the top, and inside she saw a scroll. Look underneath it. Naruto said and smiled. She lifted the scroll and see 2 cards, tucked the scroll under her left arm, held the box, read them and looked at Naruto confused. Happy birthday, Tayuya. Tomorrow I'm taking you to those 2 stores and I'm getting you new clothes, a new weapon, and then you're moving in here. I won't have my friends living in a cheap hotel guarded by ANBU 24 hours a day. Naruto said. Tayuya looked at him, stunned. I've already asked Bachan welcome home. Tayuya dropped the box, cards and scroll, rushed in and hugged Naruto as hard as she could. Tears of joy streamed down her cheeks. A minute later Naruto is suddenly the victim of a group hug. Tenten and Hanabi joined in. The rest of the crowd came up to congratulate Tayuya. Temari picked up the dropped scroll and cards. You forgot to check the scroll, read. Temari said and smirked. Tayuya broke away for a moment and read the scroll. But I can't use this, I have to play a. Trust me, you can use the jutsu on that scroll. I know from experience that attack is perfect for you. Naruto said and smirked. Don't worry, Red. While I'm here in the village I'll help you get started. Tsunade-sama will help you after that since I'll only be here a few times a month on diplomatic missions for Gaara. My lil bro is the Kazekage after all. Thanks, Temari. Tayuya said. I'd better come along tomorrow. I don't think Naruto has the fashion sense for dressing kunoichis like us. Until today all he wore was an ugly orange jumpsuit. Temari said. Naruto glared at Temari. I heard that, Temari. Temari and Tayuya laughed. Tsunade, and a still slightly light-headed Sakura followed closely by her mother, come out of the house now. Naruto excused himself and ran to her. Are you okay, Sakura-chan? I didn't think you'd act. Naruto was cut off when Sakura glamped him, the smile on her face at least ear to ear. Sakura broke the hug, bent Naruto back and planted a long kiss on his lips so hot you could almost smell the smoke. Sakura dropped the red-faced Naruto to the ground and walked back to the stunned crowd with a huge smile of satisfaction on her face. She left him lay there twitching as blood ran from his nose. Tsunade and Sakari looked at each other, then burst out laughing. It took Naruto about 5 minutes before he could form full sentences again, and another 4 minutes before his blush faded. Several people, during and after Sakura's kiss, looked at Hinata, and were surprised to see that not only wasn't she mad, but actually smiled. About 10 minutes later everyone had chatted. Tsunade, Sakari and Sakura got caught up on what they missed while inside the house making sure Sakura was okay. That sure was interesting. I'm happy you all like your presents. Since I was gone for 3 years I missed everyone getting stronger, and I don't know what you can do now, so to fix that we're gonna have some friendly sparring matches. Naruto said. Alright. Kiba yelled, followed by a loud bark from Akamaru and cheers from several people. Sasuke even smiled at the thought of testing himself against many of the people here. I know many of you aren't trained ninjas, so you don't have to fight. I want everyone who's going to be fighting to go inside and change clothes. Naruto turned to the adults and gave them a I'm not gonna budge on this look. That means you too, Tsunade. This is my party, and Hokage or not, you're gonna join us, got it? Tsunade crosses her arms over her chest that looked him right in the eyes with one of her most withering glares, and was amazing to see him glare back just as fiercely. The brat has courage, I'll give him that. Oh what the hell, it could be fun. Okay Naruto, I'll do it, on one condition though. And this is not negotiable. The tone in her voice told him, and everyone there, that this will get serious if he even tried to argue with her. I'll only fight you. Tsunade pointed to Naruto. Unlike everyone here, Naruto, you're special. You're the only person here that could honestly beat me in a serious fight. Only a few people here know what you're really capable of now. So if I have to fight someone, even in a friendly spar, you're the only person here I'd be comfortable losing to if that happened. I'm the Hokage. How would it look if I lost to someone I'm supposed to command? I'd lose respect. Understand? Naruto nodded. Thank you, Tsunade-chan. Naruto hugged Tsunade, not realizing what he called her. Did he just call me Tsunade-chan? Tsunade's heart beat faster, and a certain part of her body heated up. She returned the hug and tried to suppress what she felt before Naruto detected it. Everyone had been given separate rooms to change in, with a few exceptions. Most obvious was the Hyuga sisters, as there would be no problem if they changed in front of each other. Because of this, the talking was minimal, if any, so there was no need for any sound seals for privacy. There was a room with a sound seal, however, and it was cast by Hinata Hyuga. Though not restricted and mainly used by Jounin, it was a jutsu nobody knew she could do. Are you sure, Hinata-nichan? You said the jackets would hide us. Hanabi said nervously. I'm pretty sure Naruto-kun knows Hanabi. I hugged him a few times last week, and you hugged him twice earlier. Hinata said. You said Kas and told you even Kurenai couldn't detect the genjutsu. Hanabi said nervously. How could Naruto-kun know? Even father's Byakugan can't see through. Naruto-kun is special, he fused with Kyuubi, remember? Hinata interrupted. Hanabi's eyes got big as saucers. Do you think he'll tell anyone, Nei-chan? I don't want to be called names because we're different. I don't know what I'd do if Naruto-kun hated me because I had, Hanabi said and pointed to herself. Hinata knelt down and put her hands on Hanabi's shoulders when she saw her little sister's eyes tear up. Hanabi, do you really think that Naruto-kun cares how his friends look? Hanabi thought about that a moment, then smiled. No, cause he's weird now too. He has fox ears and 9 tails and everyone still liked him. Can I ask you something important? Of course, Hanabi-nichan. Hinata said. Are you gonna marry Naruto-kun and have babies? Hanabi said seriously. Hinata's eyes got big as saucers and she blushed. She knew Hanabi knew about the Clan Restoration Act, and that she loved him, but this caught her off guard. Hinata smiled. Hi, I would if Naruto-kun asked me. Hanabi, do you love Naruto-kun too? Hanabi did a quick inhale, and looked down at the floor. I liked Konohamura for a while. I asked you about Naruto-kun, do you love him, Hanabi? I won't be mad if you do. We don't keep secrets from each other. Hinata said. Hanabi raised her head as her face turned red. Hi. I feel all warm in my belly and my heart beats faster. Me too, but you're not old enough for that yet, maybe in a few years. Now come on, get your jacket on and let's go out there and see who we're going to spar with. Don't worry, Hanabi, this won't be any worse than training with father. When you fight somebody, don't hold back, make father proud. Hinata said, and Naruto-kun too, I want to show him how strong I am. Hanabi said confidently, a big smile on her face. Now in the battle gear that they wore on missions, though Hanabi hadn't actually gone on any missions because she was still in the academy. She was dressed similar to Hinata, sandals, blue pants, Hinata's were black, and of course Hinata's old gray jacket over a black shirt, only the neck showed. Hinata's coat was purple and newer. Hanabi walked down the hallway with Hinata. Nei-chan, will you help me learn my new water jutsu? You can do too already so. Of course I will, Hanabi, you only had to ask me. Hinata said. Hanabi smiled and hugged her big sister. Thanks, Hinata-nichan. A woman screamed from downstairs. They looked at each other, then ran down the hall, down the stairs and across the room to the couch, worried someone was hurt. What happened, Sakura-chan? Hinata said, worried. Sakura looked up at them. Hello, Hinata-chan, Hanabi-chan. I showed mom what Naruto-kun got me, she screamed and fainted. Sakura, what's Rose? Tsunade stopped and sighed. You showed her and she fainted, right? Hi, Tsunade-sensei. I should have prepared her better. Sakura said. What is it, Sakura-chan? Hinata said. Sakura opened the box gently and slowly pulled up a shiny metal chain, and finally revealed a silver, ruby and diamond cherry blossom tree about 2 inches tall. Hinata and Hanabi gasped in amazement. They'd never seen anything so small, yet so intricately made. It actually looked like a real tree. It's a family heirloom we thought was lost when mom was little. Ba-chan used to wear it all the time, mom once told me. Mom remembered being told it was very special, but she died before she could tell mom about it and pass it on to her. Tsunade-sensei told me it was in the Namikaze vault at least 15 years. Sakura said. Tsunade stepped close and used a diagnostic jutsu to check Sakari over, only because of her age and she wasn't a kunoichi. Tsunade was glad to find the woman in good health, and very fit for a civilian. She's fine, Sakura, just give her some water when she wakes up. Sakura nodded. Within 5 minutes everyone had changed. Tsunade had already, but her outfit change was hardly noticeable, if at all. Her usual worn green jacket, gray shirt, black pants and sandals she always wore. Since there were an even number of shinobi, Naruto had decided to do his own version of the Chunin exam matches, well, the first round anyway. Naruto gathered everyone around the couch and coffee table. Okay, because of time everyone may not get to fight, so to give everyone a chance to have their match there'll be a time limit of 30 minutes. Several people groaned, disappointed. As you all know, I'll be fighting Tsunade. I know many of you would love to spar with her, but because she's also the Hokage there are some things she can't risk, even for a friendly sparring match. So I'll have to kick her wrinkled old butt for you. Naruto said and smirked. The air in the room was suddenly very heavy. Everyone turned to Tsunade, Several gasped in fear at her expression. The silence was broken by Kiba. Naruto's dead. Many around him nodded. They had no doubt that her match with Naruto would be the best of the day. Nobody mentioned it, but they could swear they heard a low, very primal animal growl from her. Everyone looked at Naruto. They knew that if he wasn't who he was, he'd be a bloody stain on the floor right now. They also saw the worried look on Naruto's face. They were right. Naruto was the only person that could refer to Tsunade as old and not need medical attention afterwards. Naruto may have pushed even his legendary luck a little far that time, and it was obvious he knew it. Anyway, Naruto said nervously. Let's get to the pairings, he said as he tried to change the mood in the room. Oh, Kami, is she gonna hurt me? Naruto thought as he drew names. Many of the people called were very happy with their opponent, some weren't, for various reasons. A few didn't react either way. Once he'd paired them up, Naruto drew 2 names and let each choose their opponent. That put the final count at 10 matches. Some of them promised to be very entertaining. Everyone headed outside to the open field known as Training Ground 1. Okay, just to remind everyone of the rules. This is just for fun, so no attacks or jutsu that could be fatal. Why did everyone look at me? Sasuke said, only half serious. You can still win by knockout, or if your opponent gave up. Last, since we're fighting in a limited area, if you leave the training ground for any reason you lose. Naruto said, a ring out? Someone asked and got a nod from Naruto. Almost forgot, if your match ended because of time, we'll decide who won. Naruto said. With everyone in agreement, the first 2 fighters walked to the center of the training ground. First to walk out was an adorable little fireball called Hanabi. She was one of the 2 fighters chosen by her opponent. For Hanabi, this was Konohamaru, her classmate at the academy and grandson of the 3rd Hokage. He walked out, stood 10 feet in front of her and bowed. She returned the bow. Hanabi was pretty happy to be fighting him. She'd been really nervous she'd get chosen to fight one of the older shinobi. But as good as she was for her age, she knew in a real fight with almost everyone there she'd get slaughtered. Get ready, Naruto said. Konohamaru took the taijutsu stance he'd learned at the academy, although he'd gotten some training by Naruto when he was younger. To no one's surprise, Hanabi dropped into the gentle fist stance used by her clan. They were a little surprised that she didn't activate her Byakugan first. Everyone knew she could. Sakura leaned to her left. Why didn't she activate her Byakugan? Hinata-chan, Hayashi, who stood behind her, quickly tuned into the conversation. He was also curious as to why she hadn't. Hinata smiled. She knew her father was behind her listening. To prove her skill as a kunoichi and a hyuga. Inside, Hayashi grinned ear to ear, but his face didn't show even a hint of his feelings. Sakura thought a moment, then smirked and whispered to Hinata. She wants to impress him, doesn't she? Hinata nodded slightly. Hanabi has a crush on Naruto. Sakura thought, amused at the effect Naruto had on girls. For a moment Hayashi thought Hinata meant him, but quickly realized who Sakura referred to when the events of the day flashed through his mind. I must have a talk with Hinata and Hanabi tonight. One of my daughters must remain to continue our family bloodline. He thought. Fight! Naruto yelled. Konohamaru rushed in with a flurry of punches and kicks. Some showed Naruto's influence, that Hanabi either dodged or blocked with apparent ease. The second he stopped, Hanabi hit him with a palm strike to the chest that knocked him back about 10 feet. Give up, Konohamaru. You can't beat me and I don't want to hurt you if I don't have to. No! I'll prove myself to everyone and show them I'm gonna be Hokage someday just like my grandpa. Many of the people caught what he almost said, and several hush talks were heard among them. As you wish, but don't expect me to apologize after I make you cry like a baby. Hanabi flashed through 4 hand signs and the veins around her eyes bulged. Byakugan, only 4 to activate it, excellent, soon she won't need any, just like Hinata and Niji. Hayashi thought as he put a hand on Hinata's shoulder. This fight is over, Kiba said. Many people nodded in agreement. Hanabi glanced at Hinata and smirked. Oh no, she's going to use it on him, Hinata said nervously. Everyone around Hinata suddenly looked at her very curiously, especially Hayashi. She's going to use what on him, Hinata? Hayashi said in a low, but commanding voice. She only told me. Hinata pressed her index fingers together nervously. She's been watching you and N, Niji and D, developed her own version of the. Hayashi's eyebrows went up when he realized what she was about to say. Hinata felt the pressure in her father's grip on her shoulder increase slightly. You mean she learned it just from watching me and Niji train? Hayashi said. Hi, father, Hinata said. Hayashi didn't know if he should be angry or proud. Let's see it, then I'll decide what to do, Hayashi said to a now very nervous Hinata. Niji also watched intently and activated his Byakugan, which Hayashi noticed and activated his. Even though she'd already seen it, Hinata would have activated hers, but she was far too nervous to even focus her chakra. Everyone around them noticed the 2 Hyuga's eyes change. As Konohamaru charged, Hanabi flashed through a series of hand signs that got a gasp of shock from several people in the crowd that couldn't believe what they saw. It can't be, she's too young, someone yelled, but nobody paid any attention. As soon as Konohamaru got in range, Hanabi unleashed her version of the Hyuga clan's ultimate attack. Hanabi's Storm, for trigrams 32 palms. Hanabi screamed at the top of her lungs. 248-1632. Hanabi counted out loud as her hands lashed out at Konohamaru faster than she knew he could follow, and to the amazement of some Chunin, faster than they could follow. Konohamaru stood there a few seconds, utter disbelief on his face. The crowd watched just as stunned, but even that took a close second to what happened next. "I love you, Hanabi," Konohamaru said, then fell face first into the dirt, unconscious. "Did he say he loved me?" Hanabi said before she collapsed. Luckily for her, Hayashi was behind her in an instant, and caught her before she hit the ground. Tsunade was there a second later with Konohamaru. "The next match will be delayed," Tsunade said matter-of-factly. Nobody argued. "I have to check him over." Hayashi nodded to her, and they went inside, followed by everyone else. When she finished her scan of him, and a Byakugan check by Hayashi, Tsunade told everyone he'd be fine, but he wasn't going to be able to do any training for a week to 10 days until his chakra points all opened again. Hanabi's attack had only closed half of them, unlike the full version, but it was all the major chakra points she hit. Hanabi knew exactly what she was doing. Hanabi woke up on the couch. Her Byakugan had deactivated when she'd fainted. The first face she saw, much to her horror, was the emotionless face of her father Hayashi. Right away Hanabi started to sweat. She knew one of two things was about to happen to her. Her father would be very proud of her for what she'd done on her own, or she'd be grounded the rest of her natural life, and would never see anyone outside the clan compound again. Hayashi glared at her for a full minute to make her squirm. Nobody interrupted or said a word. "I'm proud of you, Hanabi," he said, and suddenly smiled. Hanabi went totally limp on the couch, a HEG smile on her face. Everyone laughed at her reaction. A few minutes later both kids were up and walking again. Hanabi bowed thankfully to her father. Konohamaru was a little shaky for a few minutes. Hanabi apologized to him for what she'd done, and admitted she'd gone a bit far, and used him to show her new jutsu to her father. He was kinda mad at her, but that feeling was obliterated when she told him she's go out with him once to make up for it. "Just lunch, I'll pay, and don't even try to kiss me, Konohamaru," Hanabi said. Konohamaru nodded and blushed. She liked him, even respected him, and although they were friends she loved teasing him. This just gave her a new weapon to use against him. She noticed lately that Moegi seemed to get a little upset when she did. "Does Moegi like him? If she does, I better not mention he liked me. It was hard enough getting them to like me as Hanabi, not because I'm Hanabi Hyuga. Oh no, I promised I'd go on a date. I hope he'll let me buy him and his friends lunch instead, since they weren't able to come to the party," Hanabi thought. After Konohamaru composed himself, and before everyone went back outside for the next match, Hanabi had a private talk with a slightly blushed Konohamaru. After a few minutes he agreed to let Hanabi buy him and his friends lunch instead of a date. She also, rather sadly, told him she was flattered he liked her, but her heart belonged to someone else and they could only be friends. This was a blow to him, but he handled it well. This was nothing compared to how he felt when he lost his grandpa, the third Hokage. What she didn't mention was that she was pretty sure Moegi liked him, but she'd talk to Moegi tomorrow about that. Hanabi thought Moegi reminded her of how Hinata used to act around Naruto-kun, although Moegi didn't faint like Hinata did. With everyone okay, they returned to training ground 1. This was the other choose your opponent match. The drawn name was Ino, and to no one's surprise she chose Sakura. She'd stated very clearly she wanted a rematch from the Chunin exams, as did Sakura. They couldn't let things stand at a draw. They were best friends now, but that wouldn't stop either from giving her all against her favorite friendly rival. Everyone looked forward to the rematch also, especially an almost drooling Kiba. The thought of the Teo-busted Kunoichi fighting almost too much for him to handle. This fact was very obvious to everyone, except Konohamaru and Hanabi, but nobody was going to fill them in on why Kiba was so excited about the next match. Especially not after Tsunade and Hayashi passed a quick glare around the room. If asked, they'd say Bakayushi loved fights. Nobody there was foolish enough to want the Hokage Tsunade and Hayashi Hyuga mad at them. That's like asking to have your life turned into a living hell if you were very lucky. Well, everyone didn't return to the training ground. While Hanabi and Konohamaru had their talk, another was going on, Sakura and Ino. Both girls then talked to Tsunade and made sure nobody overheard them. Nobody saw the two Kunoichi and the Sannin slip out of the room for a moment either. Before the two girls returned, Tsunade had a quick chat with Hayashi, who got his youngest daughter and her friend to stay in the house so they can discuss Hanabi's new jutsu, look around, things like that. It's what he told them anyway. They didn't want to miss the other matches, but Hayashi told them the other matches weren't for their eyes and to drop the subject. Hayashi didn't fully know why. All Tsunade had said was that the other matches just became shinobi only. The way she'd said shinobi only made him very curious, but when the Hokage asked him to keep the kids inside, as a personal favor to her, he wasn't going to refuse. Not just because he respected her, but he was smart enough to know that having the Hokage owe you a personal favor was an opportunity he wasn't going to miss. The potential benefit to his clans, and even his own, honor and status far outweighed anything else. As head of the Hyuga clan, his top priority was to keep the clan strong. Tsunade, even just a month ago, would have never done what she did. Hayashi Hyuga was a hard-ass when it came to his clan, and she knew as well as the council how he thought, but since Naruto's return, and the whole truth about Naruto revealed, he changed a lot. It wasn't noticeable in public, however. His steel exterior was well polished. What is it about you, Naruto, that makes you so special? Tsunade thought as she walked out to training ground 1. The two young kunoichi walked out to the center of the training ground, and stood only 2 feet apart. You ready to do this, bitch? Ino asked with a smile. Show me what you've got, slut. Sakura smiled back. Both bowed respectfully. If anyone had listened, they would have been surprised, not by what was said, not even by who said it. The girls' rivalry wasn't a secret, but by the fact that their insults didn't carry even the smallest hint of malice, only respect. What they were going to do would cost both some dignity, but they were willing to pay it for the end result. Naruto turned to Tsunade, who stood next to him. They aren't going to hurt each other, are they not, like they did during their match in the Chunin exams? Tsunade could hear the genuine concern in his voice for their safety. Even in a friendly sparring match, both girls' tempers were well known to flare up out of control. No, Naruto. It'll be a rough match, but nothing worse than what they've done during normal training. They've gotten a lot stronger in the 3 years you were gone. That's what worried me, Naruto said. Tsunade just smiled and let out a quiet sigh. Please be careful, girls, Tsunade thought. Ready, asterisk, Naruto yelled. Both girls jumped back on feet. Fight, Naruto yelled. Sakura quickly made a hand sign everyone recognized instantly. Shadow Clone Jutsu. A moment later there was 2 puffs of smoke and 3 Sakuras stood there. Sakura-chan can do the Shadow Clone Jutsu? Naruto said, stunned. Hi, Naruto, Tsunade said. And much more, Tsunade thought. She's seen you use it so often to win a battle, so she asked me to teach it to her. She doesn't have your chakra capacity, but her control is perfect, so she doesn't need to use quite as much chakra as you do. You really have gotten stronger, Sakura-chan, Naruto thought. The 2 outside Sakura clones circled out and charged Ino from the sides. Ino just smiled. Once they were close, Ino jumped up, dodged both punches, and did a spinning splits kick that hit the 2 Sakura clones in the face, then landing on her feet and faced the original again. The 2 shadow clones pop off out of existence. Your taijutsu has really improved, Ino, Sakura said. Ino smiled. Well, I can't exactly use my mind transfer jutsu in the middle of a fight now, can I? All that leaves is weapons and taijutsu, and I always was a nasty bitch. Oh, by the way, nice shadow clones, Sakura. Thanks. And Ino gotcha, Sakura said and smiled. Sakura suddenly popped out of the ground behind Ino and grabbed her in a full Nelson that Ino knew she can't break. Because of her special training from Tsunade, Sakura's strength had increased to an incredible degree. She was second in physical strength, only to Naruto and Tsunade, and everyone knew it. What HEY? Ino struggled for a moment. You sneaky bitch, you mean that was a shadow clone the whole time? Ino said, stunned. Hi, Sakura said as she clamped the full Nelson a little harder. How the hell did you do that, Sakura? Ino said and grunted slightly. Just my version of a jutsu Kakashi-sensei did to Sasuke in our final exam when we became Team 7, Sakura said. Kakashi and Naruto smirked as they remembered the incident Sakura had just referred to. Sasuke turned to the clothes by Tsunade, notably impressed. Sakura not only learned the Shadow Clone Jutsu, but she combined it with the Headhunter Jutsu to create her own jutsu? Tsunade smiled when she saw Naruto stare at her with the same look on his face as Sasuke. Hiya, she did, Sasuke, Tsunade said proudly. I didn't think that was possible, I really underestimated Sakura, Sasuke said. His statement stunned everyone that heard him actually compliment Sakura's skill. Okay, Sakura, I wanted to play a little longer, but if you want to step it up now, that's fine with me, Ino smiled. I learned this from Temari last year, no kunoichi can withstand it. Oh, Kami, watch this, Temari said as she held in her laughter. Everyone watched the 2 kunoichi intently. Temari almost couldn't wait to see what Ino was about to do to Sakura. I almost feel sorry for Sakura, almost. A big smile and slight blush appeared on Temari's face. You're bluffing, Ino. Your arms are trapped. You can't make a hand sign, Sakura said. Ino laughed. This jutsu I can. Although she knew her life wasn't in any danger, and she'd made a special deal with Ino just before this match, Sakura actually got nervous. What did Temari teach her? Sakura thought, then felt Ino's right arm twitching. Sakura looked up and saw Ino doing a series of one-handed signs she's never seen before. Kunoichi's shame, Ino yelled out. Except for Temari, the other kunoichi including Tsunade, all suddenly get extremely curious, but nothing happened right away. The men are just as curious. They all heard Ino say that no kunoichi could withstand it. What's kunoichi shame, Tsunade-sama? I've never heard of it, Tenten said. I don't know, I've never heard of it either, Tsunade said. This really surprised everyone. Tsunade suddenly recalled something said earlier. What's the jutsu do, Temari? Tsunade says in an almost commanding voice. I'll explain it later, Tsunade-sama, I promise. I created it, but Ino mastered it. Please just watch, it should hit Sakura any second, Temari said with a big smile. She hoped she didn't upset Tsunade the way she dodged the question. She didn't lie to her, she would explain the jutsu in detail, since she did create it. She'd only taught it to Ino after they'd had a very stimulating chat, and the subject of the unique taijutsu style Ino was creating came up. She'd found it very clever, and potentially unstoppable against certain types of opponents. The fact that Ino also had a wind affinity was a bonus, and the main reason she taught the jutsu to the younger blonde kunoichi. That, and Temari really liked Ino's personality. Ino was a bit of a bitch, but Temari was too. It was part of her charm. Sakura suddenly released Ino, threw her head back and screamed. Her whole body went stiff as she shook. "There's dust swirling around Sakura-chan's feet," Hinata said. "Sakura!" Tsunade suddenly screamed, her eyes wide open as her guess on the jutsu's effect is confirmed. Temari laughed as Sakura continued to scream, but it wasn't from pain. Anko, Kurenai and Sakari gasped in shock when they realized what the jutsu did and blushed. Although not a kunoichi, Sakari had some training as a girl and remembered the special code kunoichi lived by. "Oh my poor Sakura," Sakari said before she fainted. The women, after it was mentioned, looked intently at the dust swirling around Sakura's feet, and realized it's actually a small, visible tornado. What made them all gasp in shock was they noticed it was directly between her feet, and went all the way up between her legs. After a minute the dust swirl dispersed and Sakura struggled to stay on her feet as she sweated profusely and panted heavily, her face red. A few moments later Sakura regained her balance and rested, bent over, her hands on her knees. Ino stood there and smiled ear to ear, her face bright pink. About a minute later Sakura stood up, her breathing normal now, an almost blissful smile on her face. "Temari taught you that, huh?" Ino nodded. She knew if she even tried to talk right now she'd laugh her head off. Sakura looked over at Temari and locked eyes with her. "I don't know if I should thank her for teaching you that or kill her." Temari suddenly stopped smiling and her face got a little pale. Although her wind attacks were very powerful, Temari knew that if Sakura gets her hands on her she could very easily become Sakura's bitch if she was lucky. She's a good fighter, but her razor-sharp mind told her she's no match for Sakura in a serious hand-to-hand fight. The pink-haired kunoichi could literally knock her head off if she really wanted to. "I hope she's joking," Temari thought. "Well, Ino, shall we continue?" Sakura said and smiled. "If you're ready, Sakura," Ino managed to say, her emotions almost back to normal. "And Ino, I want to thank you for not taking advantage of the situation." The crowd on her left, Sakura winked slyly at Ino with her right eye. Ino winked back. Both knew if this was a real fight that was Ino's only chance to beat her, and 3 years ago, had Ino known that jutsu, she would have charged in and finished Sakura. Sakura rushed at Ino with blinding speed and locked on a front bear hug, then with her head close whispered in Ino's ear. "You're not wearing, are you, Ino?" "No," Ino whispered back. After a few moments of close body contact, Sakura smirked. "Ino, you're such slut," Sakura said playfully, then her expression changed. "I'm sorry I have to do this to you, Ino, but I'll make it up to you, I promise." Sakura whispered so only Ino could hear. "I'll live and it'll be worth it," for his reaction. Ino took a focusing breath. "I'm ready, Sakura, do it." Unlike everyone else, Tsunade knew that this wasn't a real sparring match, but a special housewarming gift for Naruto that Sakura and Ino came up with at the last minute. Despite that, and knowing the basic plan for the outcome of the fight, she'd been totally caught off guard by the unusual jutsu Ino had used, which reminded her to have a talk with the sand kunoichi after the match was over. She hated to admit it to herself, but like Jiraiya and Sarutobi the third Hokage did to Naruto's sexy jutsu, that kunoichi's shame jutsu Temari and Ino knew, once mastered, would defeat her in a single move and leave her helpless. Tsunade glanced over at Sakari and saw her being held up by Ayam while she recovered from her faint, then nodded her thanks to the girl. Sakura gave Ino a seemingly powerful squeeze, which caused Ino to scream, then suddenly released Ino and grabbed her shoulders. "I've waited a long time for this moment, you slut," Sakura yelled, before she drove her right knee up between Ino's parted thighs, which lifted her off the ground a good 6 inches. Tsunade could tell that knee was real and had a good amount of power behind it judging by Ino's reaction. Tsunade reaches out and grabbed Naruto's shoulder with an iron grip. "Don't get involved, Naruto. Forget for a minute they're your friends and just enjoy the fight, trust me." The look in her eyes told him she was sincere. He sighed and turned back to watch the girls fight, pushed all his personal feelings aside like Jiraiya taught him to do when he had to do something he didn't want to, like when he killed Itachi. Naruto saw the pure agony on Ino's face, and a cruel smile in Sakura's. He knew that look from Sakura very well from personal experience. She's never need him there, which he was grateful for, especially now that she was so strong, even he couldn't withstand an unexpected hit there without folding up. Sakura grabbed the base of Ino's long ponytail in her left hand and lifted her off the ground about 6 inches. "You need some humiliation to go with your beating, bitch." Everyone heard Sakura's statement, a little shocked by how cruel she's being in a friendly sparring match with her best friend. Sakura walked over near the sideline, in front of the crowd, specifically Naruto. "If you guys want to see this big slut stripped and beaten, come down here by Naruto." Everyone but Shino, Ayam's father and Tenten's father, moved down by Naruto. Nobody dared stand in front of Naruto though, they didn't want to risk making Sakura mad, as she was obviously doing this for him. Sakura stood facing them, Ino hung by her ponytail next to her, and also faced them. Her eyes looked at the ground, not that anyone looked at her eyes. Sakura grabbed Ino's shirt in the center of her ample chest, with a yank ripped it completely off and revealed Ino's bare. There was a moment of silence as everyone finally got a look at what Ino had flaunted for years in her tight clothes. It was worth the wait because they were beautiful. Full, round, and as big as melons, A/N 3080 cup, with only a little sag from their weight, and capped by dark red areola almost 5 inches across and thick about an inch long. Her stomach, what they could see of it, was wrapped in bandages, but many shinobi wore bandages on their body and limbs for extra protection. Sakura turned Ino so they faced each other, and with her right fist drove one devastating punch after another straight into Ino's left with blinding speed, her big red used as a target. Then Sakura switched hands, held the now heavily sobbing Ino up with her right hand, repeated her action on Ino's other, which left both covered in bruises. They were nice, weren't they? Sakura asked coyly, saw the look on Naruto's face, but something else about Naruto almost made her break her concentration when she saw the subtle outline in his clothes. Inner Sakura, however, totally freaked out. The guys nodded absent-mindedly, including Naruto. There was something about watching Sakura and Ino fight, especially since Ino was now topless, but even badly bruised he found her amazing. They're as stunning as Tayuya's, but not nearly as large as the redheads. Now that the prelims are over, let's get to the main event, shall we? Sakura said, reached down and grabbed the waistband of Ino's pants. No, please, Ino said quietly. Sakura was honestly amazed Ino was still conscious. Forget everything else, she was genuinely impressed by Ino's inner strength. Sorry, Ino, but you're in no position to stop me. Please, Sakura-chan, don't do it. Sakura caught a subtle undertone in Ino's voice, and knew what it meant. On second thought, only one of you deserves the honor, so I'm ending this. Sakura stood Ino on her feet, held her bare shoulders to keep her up, with Ino's back to the crowd. Unseen and unheard by everyone, Sakura had a quick chat with Ino that ended with a slight nod from Ino that looked like her head dropped. Sakura then drove her right knee once again up into Ino's womanhood. The impact not only lifted Ino off her feet, but sent her flying to land spread-eagled on her back just outside of the training grounds border, and ended the match with a ring out. The instant Ino hit the ground, Tsunade took over. She had Ino scooped up in her arms, bridal style, in 2 seconds. Sakura, Sakari, Temari and Naruto, come with me, everyone else stay here, and if I hear even the slightest comment about this from anyone. Tsunade's face went absolutely stone cold. They'll have to deal with me. The tone in Tsunade's voice sent a shiver down everyone's spine. Nobody had even the slightest doubt in their mind that if they even attempted to do anything other than what she said, it could mean their life if they were very lucky. Even Enko had a very unfamiliar feeling in the pit of her stomach. Terror. Inside the house, Hayashi had felt the immense chakra spike, and knew it could only be Tsunade. He silently activated his Byakugan, saw them racing for the house. He quickly deactivated it, and made sure he got the kids into another room, so the hallway to the bedrooms was clear. Tsunade and company were in Naruto's master bedroom not even a minute later. The door was locked seconds later by Naruto on a command from Tsunade. Outside, Shizen watched everyone closely, her hearing now enhanced to a degree that would impress even a jounin. Shizen knew Tsunade would want to know if anything was said. She knew the 2 civilians didn't feel her chakra rise beyond her official level. She very rarely did it because to reach and maintain this level of concentration put an incredible strain on her. She just hoped they'd return before she reached the limits of her strength. If she didn't have to move, she could channel all her chakra into her ears. Even Naruto couldn't sneak up on her right now. She hadn't intended to use her gift, but Tsunade's voice had upset her, and once activated, her options were very limited on what she could do. Minus 16 minutes later, outside, Tsunade and Temari walked out the back door. They rejoined the group and everyone sighed in relief when they saw Tsunade's face. She smiled again, as was Temari. As soon as she was outside, Tsunade scanned the group, found who she wanted, and almost showed the shock she felt. Damn it, Shizen, you didn't have to do that. I must have upset her. I'll make this up to her later, Tsunade thought. Shizen. They locked eyes for a second. Shizen knew Tsunade had asked if she was okay. She nodded. Both knew she just needed to rest a few minutes. The few shinobi that watched Shizen until she relaxed saw her knees almost buckle for a moment before she regained her calm. Sure. Go to Naruto's room, talk to Sakari, Tsunade said. Hi, Tsunade equals Sama. Shizen nodded, and felt her strength back. She ran off at high speed and disappeared inside the house a moment later. Ino is fine. Any other questions or comments I strongly suggest you keep to yourself. And until I say otherwise. Tsunade's smile dropped away. That match never happened. Do I make myself perfectly clear? Everyone nodded that they understood. The look on her face was unmistakable, even to Ayame and her father, who ran Naruto's favorite ramen stand. They knew it was a command from the Hokage, and a personal threat from Tsunade. Acting as either, Tsunade had incredible power, as both. Her full power was almost unstoppable if she chose to unleash it on you. Almost as feared as her punches was her Fisher technique, one of her 2 signature attacks. With a stomp of her foot she could split the ground open enough to bury you alive, and that was with a small amount of chakra. Nobody wanted to see what a full power stomp could do, but many figured she could destroy the entire village with one stomp and bring down the Hokage monument on top of them. Before the mood is ruined, let's get to the next match. A little fun is called for, I think. Who's up next? Naruto. Tsunade said. Naruto scrunched up his face and thought as he looked around the crowd at the people that were picked to have matches, suddenly stopped with a big smile. Tsunade followed Naruto's gaze and smiled. Temari, it's your turn. Temari looked at the grinning boy, then Tsunade. They were smiling slyly. Temari, get out there. Shikamaru, I want to talk to you. Tsunade said with a smile she saw made Temari very nervous. Hi, Tsunade-sama. Temari said and silently asked Tsunade, what are you gonna do to me? With her eyes. Shikamaru just raised an eyebrow and walked casually to Tsunade, who took him aside for a private chat, her back to everyone. A minute later everyone heard Shikamaru's signature sigh and troublesome. What they missed was both his eyebrows briefly leapt to the top of his forehead in surprise, as well as the very unusual, and brief, smile on his face. Out in the center of Training Ground 1, Temari stood there leaned on her giant fan as she tried to hide her nervousness and failage. Why do I get the feeling if he catches me in that damn shadow potion just of his I won't get off as easy as I did 3 years ago? Temari noted the position of the sun above and slightly behind her, which cast a small shadow forward, as well as the trees near the border of the training ground behind her also cast shadows into Training Ground 1. The advantage was strongly in Shikamaru's favor. I'm in a lot trouble, I'll have to end this fast. I can't give him a chance to set up any traps. Temari was one of the best strategists around and was very proud of that, but she knew in her heart that the laziest person she'd ever met in her life made her feel stupid by comparison. Since Suna had surrendered to them after the attack over 3 years ago, when she became the diplomatic messenger between the two villages, she'd played shogi with Shikamaru many times. They were fairly even the first couple months, she even won a few games, but from then on he got better fast, and during the last 2 years no matter how hard she tried he destroyed her like a rank amateur. She wasn't even a challenge for him anymore, which bothered her, but made her respect him, though she'd never tell him that. If I'm not a challenge, then why does he still play shogi with me? Temari thought, confused. Ready, Naruto yelled. Shikamaru took his hands out of his pockets like he usually did. What everyone noticed is that Temari, unlike her normal tactic, immediately opened her giant fan all the way and got it ready for a big attack. She wasn't gonna play with him, friendly spar or not, she was going for a knockout the second the match started and everyone knew it. Naruto looked at Tsunade and she nodded. Naruto quickly stepped up to the border of Training Ground 1, flashing through a series of hand signs and reached out his right hand. Barrier seal. There was suddenly a shadow-like barrier around the training ground, but it didn't appear to block anything. It's a security precocious of Minato's, to protect the people and property around the area from dangerous or powerful attacks like Temari is probably about to use. All 4 training grounds have this seal. Tsunade said. Everyone nodded, they knew why it wasn't used until now. Temari's attacks are wind-based and very destructive, as many of them had seen firsthand. The instant Naruto said fight, Temari leapt back 30 feet with such speed that most of the Chunin couldn't follow her until she stopped. Relentless storm. Temari yelled at the top of her lungs and swung her giant fan in front of her 12 times. Each wave unleashed a visible, 50-foot wall of wind as wide as the training ground that literally roared as the first blast sped towards Shikamaru. Everyone watched in awe, even Naruto. They'd never seen this attack before. Everyone watched as Temari swung her fan side to side, each swing apparently done with everything she had. Naruto had to admit to himself that even he couldn't break through that attack easily. It was at least an A-rank jutsu. When Temari stopped, she dropped her fan and fell to her knees. Sweat poured off her as she panted hard to catch her breath. Where's Shikamaru? Chuji screamed, very worried about his friend. Suddenly everyone scanned the area for him nervously. Then silence. The only sound was Temari's breathing. That was very impressive, Temari, but it used most of your chakra. A male voice said. It did, but it was worth. Temari's head whipped to her right, total shock and disbelief on her face. Shikamaru, how did you dodge that? He was in her exact pose. Later, you troublesome woman. Shadow puppet jutsu. Shikamaru said, his shadow stretched to his left and grabbed Temari's shadow. Everyone watched, stunned, as Shikamaru calmly walked over to where Sakura and Ino had been at the end of their match. Temari mimicked every move he made, but unlike his shadow possession jutsu, it wasn't like a mirror reflection, she was like his puppet. Tsunade nodded at Shikamaru, then turned to Naruto. You can release the barrier, Naruto. Temari's finished. The fight is over, but not the match. Naruto was confused, but obeyed. Barrier release. Temari was really nervous now. Shikamaru, what are you going to? Temari stopped suddenly. She faced the crowd and couldn't see Shikamaru. But worse, she couldn't move except to talk, which she figured was intentional if Shikamaru had as much control over her body as she figured he did. She'd stopped not because her arms had moved without her, but because they had lifted her shirt up to take it off. No, Shikamaru, please don't do this to me. Temari said, fear in her voice. Wait a second, Shikamaru. Tsunade said as Temari's hands reached the bottom of her, part of her flat stomach exposed. Temari, did you forget what happened earlier? Temaru's heart dropped. No, Tsunade-sama. But isn't there anything else that? Tsunade did a fast glance towards someone else that made Temari stop. Temari sighed in defeat. Tsunade had her, and she knew it. Everyone. Tsunade said with unquestionable authority. This never happened. Everyone nodded. They knew they couldn't repeat what they're about to see. Shikamaru, continued the show. Tsunade said with a small smirk. Temari turned red from embarrassment. The only thing that gave her some dignity was that her little brothers Kankuru and Gaara turned their backs so they wouldn't see her stripped. They'd shown their respect for her as her younger brothers. Temari's arms, against her will, removed her purple shirt and dropped it to the ground. That revealed a huge V-neck purple sports bra with black trim. The stretch fabric was thicker than normal. It was obviously custom made. Temari's face got redder as she was slowly exposed. Tayuya grinned ear to ear in obviously enjoyment as she watched her friend get humbled this way until she saw Temari's custom sports bra, and from the strain and bulges she knew Temari's were obviously a lot bigger than they looked under her shirt. Temari smiled when she saw her friend's smile fade, and when her arms pulled off her custom sports bra and dropped it on her shirt she smiled bigger. Everyone thought that Temari and Tayuya were equal in endowment. Tayuya thought so too. But Temari's were bigger, and though more oval than round, Temari's bottom heavy hung past her navel from the sheer weight. Temari's areola were a reddish-pink color and about 7 inches across. Temari blushed bright red and it spread down onto her chest. When Temari felt her hands on her waistband she looked at Tsunade and instantly knew that Tsunade wasn't going to stop Shikamaru. She was happy when she was able to clamp her eyes shut as she felt the last of her modesty slide down her legs, it exposing the patch of very blonde curls above the otherwise smooth skin around the slit between her bare, muscular thighs. That's enough, Shikamaru, let her go, Tsunade said. Temari's eyes popped open. The instant she was free she yanked up her black skirt and purple panties, grabbed her shirt and sports bra from the ground to cover her chest and raced into the house, blushed a deep scarlet, her fan still in the training ground where she'd knelt. What they didn't see was her face as she ran to the house. As embarrassing as that was, as the queen bitch of Suna as she often referred to herself, she'd been knocked off her throne and giving a lesson in humility. She had to admit to herself, however, part of her enjoyed it. She'd grown up with a little brother that absolutely terrified her as much as the rest of Suna. She never had a chance to be a normal girl. Until that moment nobody had ever seen her naked. She found the experience very liberating. To be admired, even stared at by everyone, she found very exciting. Tayuya now felt humbled herself, and a little aroused. She volunteered to take Temari's fan to her and comfort the extremely embarrassed Sand Kunoichi. In just under a minute Tayuya had Temari's surprisingly heavy fan and disappeared into the house after her new best friend. In the group, a woman suddenly spoke, but what was said didn't surprise anyone considering how things were going. I'm sorry Naruto-sama, please forgive me, but I cannot go through with my match for personal reasons. I humbly ask to be excused from participating. Naruto, still stunned from who he just saw nude, and how well endowed she really was, came out of his daze enough to answer. He turned to his female guest. Oh come on Kurenai. Anko interrupted Naruto. I feel just like you, but the way these matches have gone I run the same risk you could show everyone my tits and. So unclamp your legs, get out there, and fight me like the badass Kunoichi I know you are. Or I can drag you out there by your hair and I guarantee I'll strip you as bare-ass naked as the day you were born, spread you wide and give these boys a close look. Anko said very bluntly. Kurenai looked at Anko, absolutely shocked she'd said that to her and in front of everyone. Enough! Tsunade roared, which made everyone flinch in fear. This got a little out of hand, even beyond what I'll tolerate in the name of fun. I'm sorry Naruto, but I can't let this degenerate any further so the rest of the matches are cancelled. Many got really depressed, some were relieved they wouldn't have to fight. Sasuke was just mad. He was really anxious for his match with Hinata, to see how he compared to a Hyuga, and find out how strong she'd gotten. Hinata was absolutely thrilled however, considering how the matches had ended, except ours Naruto. Everyone looked at Tsunade like she'd gone insane. They all wondered if she was going to continue the very adult theme of the matches. Though many were excited, and very curious, at the thought of seeing the apparently 32-year-old body and of Tsunade, especially Jiraiya. He just hoped his heart would hold out long enough for him to see Tsunade's legendary giant in all their naked glory. In all his decades of peeping he'd never managed to see her body. Everyone knew about her special henge, but it actually was what she looked like 20 years ago. She just used her med skills and perfect chakra control to physically change her appearance to a different age. Everyone inside for a 30-minute break, then back out here for the best match of the day, Tsunade said with a very mischievous smile on her face. Everyone gasped in unison as basically the same thought ran through their minds at once. Tsunade/Naruto are going to end up nude. Everyone thought, each of a different Persian depending on who they were. The men thought Tsunade would get stripped, the women Naruto, several of which almost fainted at the thought. Everyone blushed bright red. Everyone walked back to the house rather slowly. They were still in shock at what they'd just seen and heard. As soon as they entered they went either to the main hall to let it all soak in, or to the kitchen to restore some strength. Most chose the kitchen as they'd used a lot of energy watching the matches, not to mention how those in them felt. About 10 minutes later everyone was in the main hall with either a drink of some kind, a plate of food, or both. The conversations had finally started just before Hanabi and Konohamaru walked in, followed by Hayashi, Shizen, Temari, Sakura, Sakari and Ino, who now wore a black t-shirt that obviously belonged to Naruto and was rather noticeably snug in places because it wasn't made for her slim and stacked figure. They just finished with their tour of the house and met the other small group on the way back. Everyone was careful what they said, of course, but Temari was caught off guard and told an excited Hanabi that Shikamaru had beat her with his shadow jutsu and embarrassed her. That's why her face was pink. Some things were unavoidable, even by Tsunade, so when Hanabi saw everyone else she scanned the room and ran to the person she was looking for. Hanabi knew Temari was too embarrassed to tell her, but she also knew she could always get this person to talk. When Hanabi asked what had happened with her cutest face, Shikamaru kept his calm. His mind raced as only his could, and came up with the most embarrassing, but still safe, thing he could. With a smirk he told her in a loud whisper everyone could hear. Everyone went back to talking, but they were acting. Everyone listened intently, ready to react appropriately. I made her spank herself for being rubblesome. It was a lie, but he knew Hanabi totally bought it. Temari pictured herself bent over as she spanked her own ass, and turned red again, which made everyone laugh. Temari looked at Tsunade and bowed her head, ashamed she'd slipped up with Hanabi. Temari looked at Tsunade and slightly asked for forgiveness. Tsunade let Temari off the hook because of her very revealing match with Shikamaru, and because that was Temari's first time being exposed to someone, much less everyone she knew, and Tsunade had basically forced it on her. Temari wasn't mad about what happened though, to Tsunade's surprise, and actually thanked Tsunade, and later Shikamaru, because they treated her like one of the girls, something she wasn't used to even though she'd spent half of her time in Konoha and gone on the occasional shopping trip and various parties over the last 3 years. She'd never fully relaxed or opened up to someone, more from a lack of experience than anything else. Tsunade understood that, considering who her family was. During the rest of the 30 minutes everyone noticed the dramatic change in Temari. Temari was a lot friendlier and more fun to be around. She even apologized for her fashion comment to Naruto earlier that day, and told him she was still going with him and Tayuya tomorrow, but she wouldn't be an uptight bitch anymore. Though the part about her being an uptight bitch she said quietly so she wasn't heard by certain young ears. And much to everyone's entertainment, she walked over to Shikamaru, grabbed his collar with both hands, yanked him up out of his chair into a smoldering kiss on the lips, then dropped him back in his chair, red-faced and unconscious. "Let's see how you like it, Spanky boy," Temari said with a huge smile of satisfaction on her face. Everyone laughed at her payback, especially Hanabi, who knew he called girls troublesome, but not in a mean way. The other 2 matches were carefully edited and relayed to Hanabi and Konohamaru. Both pouted when they were told the other matches had been cancelled, except for Hanabi, who had reacted like Hinata when her match with Sasuke was cancelled, hugged her big sister tight. Both were thrilled to hear that Naruto and Tsunade were still going to fight. That was short-lived as they were told they wouldn't get to see it. Their sad little faces tugged at his heart. Naruto told them to make it up. He'd let them train here at the Namikaze compound anytime they wanted. And Hinata-chan too, he'd said to Hanabi soon afterward. That put a big smile on all 3 faces, the third being Hinata herself. And as if he hadn't been through quite enough yet, both Hyuga girls took a cheek and thanked him at the same time. Even the usually stone-faced Hayashi had to smirk at that. Tsunade leaned against the wall red-faced as she laughed. Her 2 waist-length blonde ponytails hung in front of her, and waved wildly. Unable to resist the temptation, Sakura and Ino walked over to Naruto and smiled slyly. Naruto tried his best to politely stop them, he even begged for help, but nobody would lift a finger. They finally trapped him against the wall, and he once again fell victim to the dreaded double-cheek kiss. Naruto spent the rest of the time only with his male